We're still waiting on a couple members, but I can't see attendees. Something changed with the settings, so hopefully it won't be too much of a trouble. So if anyone can please keep an eye out for Trevor to join.
I apologize for interrupting. I do believe Trevor needs to be promoted. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you. And Indira and Jose as well.
And this is the moderator, Trevor. I found you and have promoted you. Thank you. Would you like to do a mic check?
Yes, I am here.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, we'll get started. Welcome to the June 21st, 2023 board meeting. My name is Sang Oh, president of the board. Before we convene, I would like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. Before our general announcements, I would like to welcome Julie Ansel as the board's new Assistant Executive Officer. I've had the pleasure of working with Julie as the Chief of Enforcement over the board's compliance and compounding teams. I am very excited that Julie has accepted this new position with the board. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Sang.
Yes, excited to have you start on this new role. Also, please be advised that agenda item 5 regarding the LaVita decision will not be considered today. The discussion into this matter is being postponed to avoid any potential conflict with the pending matters and also as a precautionary measure to prevent potential ex parte communication. The matter will be possibly discussed at a future meeting. This meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 11133, which is also sunsetting on June 30th. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I've advised the meeting moderator to allot 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting. Before we get started, I would like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions. Moderator?
Thank you. This is the moderator. At the appropriate times when we open public comment, we will display a slide with instructions and we will turn on the WebEx Q&A feature. Anyone may raise their hand by clicking on the hand icon, or they can look for the question mark icon and type the word comment in that text box and click send. As we said, each speaker will have 3 minutes and we ask people to speak only once per agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I'd like to take a roll call to establish a quorum. Jesse Crowley?
Present.
Good morning, Jesse. Trevor Chandler?
Here.
Good morning, Trevor. Renee Barker?
Present.
Good morning, Renee. Indira Cameron Banks? Oh, Indira is connected, I see.
I'm here. Good morning.
Oh. Good morning, Indira. Jose de la Paz. Don't think Jose is promoted yet or he's here yet. KK Jha?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, KK. Jig Patel?
Present.
Good morning, Jig. Maria Serpa?
Your licensee member present.
Good morning, Maria. Thank you. Nicole Tebow?
Present.
Thank you. Good morning, Nicole. Jason Wise? I don't think Jason is joining, and Jose is not here yet, and I am here. A quorum has been established. Moving on to the agenda, item 2, public comments on items not on the agenda for future meetings. A quorum has been established. I ask everyone participating today to be respectful of the work before the board today. We encourage participation by members of the public throughout our meetings at appropriate times. The board respectfully requests that when comments are provided, they are done so in a professional manner, consistent with how the board conducts its business. I will now ask the moderator to open the line for individuals to provide public comment for items not on the agenda. You're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. As we open the lines, I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion. Rather, it's an opportunity for members of the board and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. Moderator?
Thank you. We've opened up the Q&A feature to facilitate public comment. Any attendee may raise their hand by clicking on the hand icon, or they may look for the question mark icon, typically in the lower right of your WebEx screen if you're on the computer, or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. And our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Each person will have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning, and we ask that you speak only once. Are there any comments or suggestions for future agenda items?
I'm not able to see anyone raising hand because I don't know why for my version doesn't have attendee list. So I am not able to see. So if anyone could just please monitor, that would be great.
Certainly, and I'm also monitoring. We do have someone in the Q&A, so let me go ahead and Jerry Green, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone so that you may ask your question. One moment. And you're unmuted.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would just like the board to realize that other states have instituted in their licensing department, once a licensor is renewing their license and payment has been submitted. I personally am licensed in several other states, and I receive an email back immediately containing my paper license as well as my wallet license. And I would like the California board to consider doing this in the future, hopefully sooner than later. This will free up the licensing department and not having to wait for a third party that runs out of paper stock. And licenses will be sent out immediately and everything can be up to date, and it would be easier and probably much more cost effective to do it that way than to wait for a third party to present licenses, which could take several months to get.
And thank you.
Comment.
Thank you, exactly. And let's see, I do not see any other requests for comment at this time. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Members, any comment before we move on to the next agenda item?
Yes, President O, if I could ask our staff to identify the possibility of this digital delivery of licenses in the lieu of paper delivery or instead of paper delivery. I think any opportunity we can do to make people's lives easier and streamline our processes can only serve to benefit both us and the profession.
Thank you for the comment, Trevor. Anne, do you want to just add on anything before we move on?
As the matter is not agendized, I think we should probably leave it for now, but I'll provide an update maybe on our BizMod activities like I normally do as part of our organizational development and EO reports, which will be at the August board meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Anne.
My apologies, President O. We do have 2 raised hands that I missed. So let one moment while I deal with them. Enos Anton, I'm going to send you a request to unmute and you'll have 3 minutes. You're unmuted. Enos, we're not hearing your voice.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ines Anton. I'm a specialty pharmacist, and I'm requesting to add to the next meeting agenda the addition of specialty pharmacy or any non-patient facing pharmacy to AB 1557 so we can work remotely. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you. And our next request for comment comes from Jackie Stover. Jackie, I'm sending you a request to unmute your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes. You're unmuted. And Jackie, we're not hearing you.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Now we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, so I'm just mimicking what Inas just said. We were both trying to log in and we were having some technical difficulties. But yes, I'm also a specialty pharmacist and I'm also requesting to add to the next meeting agenda the addition of specialty pharmacy in any non-patient facing pharmacy to AB 1557 to work remotely. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments.
And now I see no further request for comment.
Thank you, Anne, the moderator, Anne. Members, any comments? All right, seeing none, we're moving on. Next agenda item 3, recognition and celebration of pharmacists licensed in California for 40 years. As you may recall, several years ago, the board changed its recognition program for pharmacists and now recognizes pharmacists that have been licensed for 40 or more years. Recognition of pharmacists reaching this milestone is posted on our website, and pharmacists are provided with a certificate. Prior to transitioning to remote meetings, the board routinely provided an opportunity for pharmacists licensed for 40 years or more to attend the board meeting and be recognized by the board. I'd like to ask if you can open up for a Q&A feature to allow pharmacists attending today that would like to be recognized by the board for 40 years of service as a California licensed pharmacist. Moderator?
Absolutely. So we have opened up the Q&A in case anyone would like to contribute their experience. And anyone may also raise their hand by clicking on the hand icon. And I do not see any raised hands or questions in the Q&A. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. Congratulations to everyone who has been a licensed as a pharmacist for over 40 years or more. The board thanks you for your contribution to public health. As we return to in-person meetings beginning in July, we invite any pharmacists to attend that have met this milestone to receive a pin that was unable to be done so during our WebEx days. Moving on to the next agenda item 4, discussion and consideration and possible action related to temporary license for military spouses, including review of comments received during the 45-day comment period. As you may recall, in response to enactment of Assembly Bill 107, Statutes of 2021, effective July 1st of 2023, the board is required to issue temporary license to qualified military spouses and partners under specified conditions. To implement this statutory change, the board must define more clearly the conditions via the regulation process. As included in the meeting materials, the 45-day comment period for this regulation was from April 14th, 2023 and ended on May 30th, 2023. Members, I trust you had an opportunity to review the materials. I have reviewed the materials, including the comments received and staff's recommendations. I agree with the recommendations offered by staff, including further amendment to the regulation text and initiation of a 15-day comment period. Members, welcome your thoughts and would also entertain a motion if you believe such action is appropriate. The meeting materials include a possible motion if you believe the staff recommendation is appropriate. Members? Any comments? Any thoughts? Or anyone want to make a motion?
Sung, this is Jessie. I will make the motion as recommended in the meeting materials.
Thank you. Is Noreen here or is Noreen not joining?
Noreen is not present at this meeting.
Okay, all right. I think from last time Noreen was here, she wanted us to read the text of the regulation motion. So Jesse, if you could so be kind and read that off the slide, really appreciate it.
And Sung, I'll provide the second.
Okay, thank you, Trevor.
Great. Thank you, Sung. So I will accept the board staff recommended comment responses, approve the staff recommended modified regulation language, and initiate a 15-day public comment period. Additionally, if no adverse comments are received, or I guess she said, what I think she changed the language on adverse comments. Do you remember that, Sung?
I don't remember, but it's okay. Just go ahead.
Okay.
I think we'll survive.
During the 15-day comment period, authorize the executive officer to take all necessary steps to complete the rulemaking and adopt the proposed regulations at section 1706.6. As noticed, further delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the control agencies. And that last part is cut off for me to complete the rulemaking file.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And Trevor seconds. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will go for public comment.
And
Moderator.
thank you. Yes, this is the moderator, and we have opened up the WebEx Q&A for public comment, or anyone may raise their hand by clicking on the hand icon if they would like to make a comment. And the Q&A is behind the question mark icon, and we're displaying instructions on the screen. Anyone who would like to, as a call-in user, can press *3 to raise their hand. Any comments on the motion? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
With a motion and a second and public comment, we'll go for the vote. Jesse?
Yes.
Thank you. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you. Renee?
Yes.
Thank you. Indira?
Yes.
Thank you. KK?
Yes.
Thank you. Jose is not here yet, right? Okay. Jake?
Yes.
Thank you. Maria?
Yes.
Thank you. Nicole?
Yes.
Thank you. Jason is not here, and I vote yes, the motion passes. All right, moving on to, we're skipping agenda item 5. We're not skipping, we're moving past. We're pulling that, moving on to the next agenda item 6. We're browsing through today, petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination of other modification of penalty. As included on the agenda, we will be considering several petitions today. I would like to turn the meeting over to ALJ Sean Gavin to preside over the hearing. Judge Gavin, the floor is yours, but I want to make sure also that all our petitioners are ready in the order of notice in the meeting agenda. So first one would be George Abraham. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And so I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Good morning, everyone. For the moderator, do we have Mr. Ibrahim and his attorney, Mr. Petrozelka, having joined the meeting at this point?
We do. I have promoted each of them, so you may, just as a notice to you two, you may unmute yourself at any time. And George, it looks like if you'd like to, there you go, you're unmuted. And Ivan Postrelska, you are unmuted also.
All right, very good. Mr. Petrozelka, let's just do a quick mic check. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, Your Honor. Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. And then for the moderator, the hearings are typically recorded. I'm prepared to do a recording here with my personal recording device through OAH, or different boards do it differently. Will you be recording the hearing, or would you like me to do that?
The entire meeting is being recorded.
Okay. And so in terms of making a record, any party who wishes to order a copy of the transcript would contact the board directly, is that right?
I think I would prefer to defer to Executive Officer Sodergren.
Okay.
I do believe that is going to be the process, though.
Okay. That's just fine. Like I said, I just want to make sure the parties know food contact. All right, very good. Before we go on the record, let me just explain briefly the process. Mr. Petrozelka, I'm sure, has explained this to the petitioner, but the way this will go is once we go on the record, I'll identify the case. I'll ask the parties to identify themselves. I do need to establish a quorum for each of our 4 petition hearings. I realize one has already been established, but each individual recording needs to be, each individual hearing needs to have an established quorum. I'll then turn it over to the Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Trauma, to just briefly give an overview of the license and disciplinary history and present the packet of the petition and supporting documents. We'll then turn it over to the petitioner, in this case with counsel, to present any additional evidence. I'll swear in all witnesses, and Mr. Petrozelka will have a chance to cross-examine or examine his witness and any others. Mr. Petrozelka, any questions before we go on the record?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we are on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of George Nabil Abdel Malik Ibrahim. This matter is being heard before the California State Board of Pharmacy. It is board case number 6663, and the Office of Administrative Hearings, where I work, has a case number of 2023-060312. As I said, my name is Sean Gavin. I'm the Administrative Law Judge presiding over this case from the Office of Administrative Hearings. Can I take the appearances of the parties, starting with the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning. Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. And for petitioner?
Ivan Petrozelka, appearing on behalf of George Ibrahim.
All right, thank you, Mr. Petrozelka. In addition, let me just go through a brief roll call to establish a quorum in this matter. Do we have Dr. O present?
Yes, I'm here, Judge Gavin. I can also do that for you as well, if it's easy for you. But up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I have the roster of folks here. I can just go through it. I don't mind either way.
Member Patel has dropped off, so he's gone for the day.
Got it. Okay, I'll make a note. Thank you. Dr. Crowley?
Present.
Mr. Chandler?
Here.
Dr. Barker?
Present.
Ms. Cameron Banks?
Present.
Mr. Shah?
Present, sir.
Dr. Serpa?
Present.
Dr. Tebow?
Present.
And let me just confirm that Mr. De La Paz and Mr. Weiss are not with us. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, very good. Those members establish a quorum. As I said, I'll now give Ms. Trauma a chance to present the petition and license history. Then the petitioner will have a chance to present any additional evidence, followed by questions from the board members. Ms. Trauma, you can proceed however you see fit.
Good morning, Your Honor. We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation. The underlying accusation alleged that petitioner, as owner and pharmacist in charge of his pharmacy, violated laws and regulations governing the practice of pharmacy, including corresponding responsibility requirements and excessive furnishing of controlled substances. Petitioner resolved that case via stipulated settlement, which was adopted by the board and became effective July 29th, 2020. The decision revoked his pharmacist license, stayed the revocation, and placed him on probation for 5 years under certain terms and conditions. To date, he has been compliant with the terms and conditions of probation, including reporting to the board on a quarterly basis, paying all of the board's investigative costs, paying the costs associated with the probation monitoring, not handling Schedule II controlled substances during the first year of probation.
I'm so sorry, Dr. Trauma. We cannot see petitioner Ibrahim. It's his blank image. We really would like to see the petitioner via video.
That's what I just did.
Mr. Ibrahim,
yes, I'm right here.
I see that you're here, but the video image of you is just a blank, a black square. Are you able to make sure that your webcam is on and that your video options are enabled correctly?
That's what I'm trying to do right now. If it's not working, I can use my laptop. Should be should be working.
Okay, it's at this point it's still just a black square.
Okay, let me try one more time, please.
Okay.
And this is the moderator. Some computers do have a cover over the camera lens, so you may wish to check the cover as well.
Do you mind if I log into my laptop? This is gonna resolve it.
No, that's just fine. Will you need to log out with your current account?
So I log in, I log out, and then I log in from the other side, right?
That's just fine. You can do that.
Okay, I'll go try now. Sorry about that.
And Mr. Ibrahim has re-logged in. And if you'd like, we can do a camera check and a mic check. You can unmute yourself at will.
How about now?
Yeah, very good. We can see and hear you now. Dr. L, can you see and hear the witness?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, not to worry. Mr. Ahmed, you can proceed however you see fit.
Thank you. To date, petitioner has been compliant with the terms and conditions of probation, including quarterly reporting, paying investigative costs, paying the costs associated with probation monitoring, not handling Schedule II controlled substances during the first year of probation, completing remedial education, completing the ethics course, completing the drug diversion and abuse course, and completing the community service requirement. With regard to the employment term, he did toll for 1 month in February of 2021 for not meeting the minimum work requirement of 40 years, strike that, 40 hours per month. Other than that 1 month, he has been compliant with the work requirement. Petitioner has filed this instant petition for early termination of probation, and included in his packet is a copy of the prior decision and order, continuing education transcripts and certificates, and 11 letters of a recommendation, all verified by board staff. There was another document received from petitioner yesterday afternoon, which was Bates labeled AGO 170. It was also uploaded to OAH. That was a statement of continuing education dated June 16th, 2023. I'd now like to mark as Exhibit 1 the petition packet, which includes the memo to the board, the petition and all of the documents attached to the petition, which are Bates labels AGO 01 through AGO 170, the notice of hearing, and the consent for electronic reporting, and I request that that be admitted.
Mr. Petrozuka, do you object?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Ahmed, the additional document that was uploaded to OAH, is it your intention to have that be included in Exhibit 1?
Yes, Your Honor, and that has been Bates labeled AGO 170.
Okay, very good. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. It is now petitioner's opportunity to address the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Petrozuka, that takes us now to petitioner's case in chief, and you can proceed however you see fit.
Good morning, Honorable Judge and members of the board. We would like to first thank you for the opportunity to present this petition for early termination of probation on behalf of pharmacist George Ibrahim. We acknowledge the fact that these petitions are granted sparingly and that it is not any sort of entitlement or right to obtain early termination of probation. In fact, these petitions are only granted when the petitioner can clearly and unequivocally establish that he or she has been fully rehabilitated. We acknowledge the board's mandate of public protection, where in the event that any interest is in conflict with the public protection shall prevail. With that said, we are here to present a humble request for reprieve in light of the continuing mitigation and rehabilitation efforts that were put forth by Mr. Ibrahim, who clearly departed from the standards of pharmacy profession several years ago when he was acting as the owner and pharmacist in charge of Coles Village Pharmacy. Mr. Ibrahim had spent the last several years obtaining additional education and implementing additional safety measures into his practice, particularly focused on the handling of controlled substances to ensure that similar departures from the professional standards will not occur again. The pharmacist who stands before you today clearly and fully understands the critical importance of full regulatory compliance and due diligence in pharmacy practice, particularly when it comes to dispensing and handling of controlled substances. Mr. Ibrahim fully appreciates the magnitude of his past failures, and he is keenly aware of the role pharmacists play in prevention of abuse and diversion of controlled substances. As Ms. Trama pointed out, his probation was for the term of 5 years. Mr. Ibrahim had served nearly 3 years of that term. The principal cause for discipline was failure of a pharmacist to exercise his corresponding responsibility when handling prescriptions for controlled substances. And this is an extremely serious failure, and we acknowledge that. Mr. Ibrahim is fully aware of the fact that mere compliance with his probation is not in and of itself sufficient to grant this petition. Nevertheless, we would like to bring forth his efforts to be fully compliant and his full compliance. The principal reason for granting this petition, in our humble opinion, is that notwithstanding the deficiencies that occurred in Mr. Ibrahim's practice in the past, his exemplary and continuous effort from the time the deficiencies were discovered to today justify the early termination at this point of time. This is not some a short-term effort that Mr. Ibrahim would put together a couple months before filing the petition. This has been ongoing effort from the very time the deficiencies were brought to Mr. Ibrahim's attention during the initial board investigation. Mr. Ibrahim focused in his efforts, particularly in his education efforts, on prevention of abuse and diversion of controlled substances in his pharmacies. He engaged in approximately 100 hours of continuing education, including most recent course put on by the Board of Pharmacy on prevention of diversion and abuse of controlled substances that was held on June 2nd. Approximately 6 years had elapsed from the time the deficiencies in Mr. Ibrahim's practice had occurred, and he's been practicing safely and responsibly ever since. The probation had also caused significant hardship on both Mr. Ibrahim and on the patients that are being served by his two pharmacies. As a result of the probation, number of insurance contracts have been canceled, number of long-term care contracts for facilities that he services have been canceled, and both of his pharmacies have been restricted from purchasing controlled substances from a number of wholesalers, even though the pharmacies themselves have not been subject to any discipline. The pharmacy that has been subject to a discipline has been closed for over 6 years now, but Mr. Ibrahim's remaining pharmacies are consistently and continuously being subject to restrictions that we believe at this point of time no longer serve any rehabilitation purposes. Continuing the probation for Mr. Ibrahim at this point serves no purpose of adding any additional margin of public safety, but continuing this probation serves only punitive purpose at this time. We believe that the evidence and testimony presented along with this petition will establish that termination of Mr. Ibrahim's probation will not pose any risk to the public, and that the termination is in fact in the public interest at this time. And with that, I would like to call Mr. George Ibrahim as a witness on his own behalf.
All right, thank you, Mr. Petruzaka. Mr. Ibrahim, I'll have you raise your right hand so I can swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, you can put your hand down if you'd like. And go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
George Abraham.
Thank you. Mr. Petrozelli, you can proceed however you see fit.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Abraham. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning.
I would like to ask you that for the purpose of recording this proceeding, that you please speak clearly when you're answering my questions or the questions from Deputy Attorney General Trama cross-examination.
Sure.
How long have you been a pharmacist in California?
Close to 18 years.
Okay. And what is your primary area of practice?
It's community pharmacy and retail.
Okay.
And we do some long-term too.
So long-term care facilities like nursing homes and assisted livings, is that your area of practice as well?
Yes, nursing home, assisted living, retirement homes, boarding care.
Now, the pharmacy that was subject to the discipline, Coles Village Pharmacy, that pharmacy is closed, but you currently own and operate other pharmacies?
Yes, I own two pharmacies. They're both called Orange Express Pharmacy. There is one in the city of Moreno Valley and one in the city of Orange.
What was the main reason for the discipline that was imposed upon your personal license?
So the main reason of it was failure of keeping record and corresponding responsibility and not watching for some of the red flags on controlled substance, on prescriptions that came to the pharmacy, and we weren't watching and monitoring everything the way I'm supposed to watch.
Okay. And do you understand the serious nature of this violation?
Yes, absolutely. I do understand the nature of the violation. And as soon as I acknowledge the mistake that was done, I try to correct myself, and we have a plan of correction, working on all the stuff we overlooked in the past. And I try to work on myself from that point on, once I got the investigation result.
So looking back at your practice at Coles Village Pharmacy, you were disciplined for failing to exercise the basic corresponding responsibility in evaluating of prescriptions for controlled substances. And some of those prescriptions were, pretty strikingly outside of the legitimate scope of practice. If you encounter prescriptions like these today in your pharmacy, would you ever consider filling them again?
I will not fill a prescription if it's a red flag, and there's many things we watch for right now as red flag prescriptions. Some of it is dose of the prescription, the age of the patient, the distance from the doctor's office or the patient's residence. So we cannot say, or we cannot reject the prescription when it comes in, but we do our own investigation and follow very strict protocol if we're gonna dispense that prescription or not. And the decision at the end to not to fill the prescription if we couldn't resolve any of these challenges.
So in your current practice, you look at every prescription for controlled substance with this due diligence, or you just limit it to maybe Schedule II controlled substances? How do you handle your prescriptions in your daily practice?
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
When you encounter prescription for controlled substance in your today's practice,
Yes.
Do you subject every prescription for controlled substance to this scrutiny or just some?
All of them. All the prescriptions for controlled substance. We monitor everything. It doesn't matter if it's Schedule 2, Schedule 5. We go through it. It's the same procedure for everything. And it starts with when we receive the prescription, we check for everything. It might be a red flag, and it can go up to calling the doctor, have a discussion with him. So even if it's a legit prescription written by the doctor, we still can flag it if it's not passing those criteria we follow right now.
So if the doctor tells you, yes, I filled that, I prescribed that drug, and you as a pharmacist just go ahead and fill it, is that good enough for you?
No, I have to use my own judgment. And I have to back up my judgment with a good rationale for that.
Do you ever reject prescriptions for controlled substance in your practice?
Of course, yes. I have to, at some point, sometimes you have to reject prescriptions. But again, I would not reject the prescription or turn down the patient unless I could not resolve any of the red flag things I see on the prescription with the doctor or with the medical office.
Okay. So you've been on probation for almost 3 years, and you mentioned that you developed a plan of action after these were brought to your attention. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that plan of action consisted of? What steps did you take to prevent reoccurrence of these errors in your future practice?
Sure. So as soon as I knew about the result of the investigation and the accusation, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a shock for me, and I acknowledge there's a big mistake it was happening, and that mistake could have caused some issues for our patients. So I tried to correct myself and do that plan. That plan included a lot of things. Included some educational material we started on, and we started on keeping up with the new pharmacy laws and the board bulletins and emails. Also, we tried to benefit from the probation. So at first, even the word probation, it was like a huge emotional impact and psychological impact on me, but it became the help and the biggest tool for me to move forward with my plan. So some of the benefit of that probation, it was that inspector used to come to the pharmacy, or is still coming to the pharmacy. She used to educate us every time she comes around. She has her own notes. She has her own observation. And to be honest, I did learn a lot from her. So between the educational material, board of pharmacy updates, some of the classes, like the diversion classes I recently took, and bringing all the material, discussing everything with the PIC, try to help him to keep very strict operation, training our staff between clerks and technicians, new staff. I think we formed a good team in that pharmacy, or both pharmacies, and we had very strict operation over there. The main target is just to serve the patient and make sure they're safe, they're getting what they want, and care for their health and well-being.
So when you're looking at the prescriptions that you may be receiving in your pharmacies, are you looking for some patterns that would be of concern to you, or you're just filling prescriptions as they come in?
Well, of course, this is the stuff I overlooked in the past, and I caused that mistake. So now when I get the prescription, I'm looking for the red flags on the prescription. And it doesn't have to be controls, all kind of prescriptions. But mainly for the controls, the red flags, it would be a lot of things you would see, like the age, the dose, the diagnosis for the patient. If the patient can have some kind of alternative, and instead of getting controlled medications, that way you lower the risk of abuse. Verifying a lot of things with the doctor. When you see prescription was high dose or more than one controlled substance. So yes, we were watching, and we're still watching for everything comes on the prescription, and we don't just fill it because we want to fill it. We fill it because all the red flags are cleared and approved. And again, if we couldn't get it approved, we make the decision not to fill the prescription. So absolutely, when we practice right now, we look at the prescriptions different. We look at the patient and evaluating his medical record different. We have better communication with the offices, with the doctor's offices. Even sometimes there is a struggle dealing with the doctor's office, but we try our best to get through that and get a hold of the doctors because they're busy sometimes.
So the drugs that you dispensed at your previous pharmacy pursuant to some of these prescriptions that were arguably not issued for legitimate medical purpose, those drugs are frequently abused and subject to diversion. In light of that fact that your actions could have actually contributed to the ongoing opioid epidemic, have you taken any action to remediate or to sort of give back to the community in terms of preventing abuse of controlled substances or treating those with addiction?
Of course. So there is two things we did. By monitoring and scanning everything that comes into the pharmacy, we lowered the number of prescriptions it gets dispensed at the pharmacy as far as control. And we lowered it, and we start discussing stuff with the doctors as far as finding some alternative. So there is some duplicate therapies, there's some high doses. We try to change with the physician to still benefit the patients, but at the same time preventing any kind of drug abuse or potential abuse. Number two, we do have a clinic across from one of our pharmacies, and it is a detox clinic. And we were working really hard with that clinic, trying to make sure most of the medications they ask for, it's available. Stuff is covered with the insurance. And if there is any insurance plan, we don't have, because sometimes it comes up as some retail plans we never had in the pharmacy. So that's when I try my best to get those plans to make the prescription available for those patients, because they're just right across of our hallway. So between us and the doctor's office, we formed a good team, and we have a good lineup of patients. They're trying to get off all these control medications and try to start new life. So we were supporting that, and we're still supporting it.
Can you tell the board about the adverse impact of your current probation on your practice in the 2 pharmacies that you currently own?
So at the beginning, besides that, emotional, psychological impact, I tried to overcome all of that. And, I know it's my mistake and I have to work on it. I have to correct it. So yes, I tried to tough it up and do my best to clear all these challenges. But some of the challenges I could not clear, which is the wholesalers. So once the wholesaler, I've been in the business for close to 20 years. Even before I become a registered pharmacist, I was a pharmacy tech and I was a clerk. And it is hard when you get challenged by the wholesaler because of that your case. And so some big wholesalers, which is unfortunately we don't have many of them, they refuse to service us. Some of them, they tried to cancel the contract. They refuse to furnish or send us some of the medications. So I did have a bad impact as far as getting medications and availability and all of that. The other challenge we had was the insurance companies. So some of the insurance companies, they decided either to cancel the contract or to challenge us to prove we're doing the right thing. And that's a very challenging process because it's nerve-wracking. Imagine, one morning your contract is canceled with the insurance and you have 3 or 4 patients on that contract. The other impact we have based on this too is with long-term care facilities. So like I mentioned, there was some of the long-term care facilities we're dealing with. And one of the important things when you deal with those kind of facilities to serve all the patients there. There is no facility would accept for you to have like partial or few patients out of 40 or 50 patient facility. So that was a big challenge too. So some of them, after so many years we service them, they try to cancel. And to be honest, I get the phone call, they're not happy with the pharmacy they have, but my hands were tied. So I couldn't do much, I couldn't help much because somehow I'm restricted to dispense or I don't have the contract for those patients. So yes, it did have bad impact. And the other thing is that cut down the business. So I had to get rid of some of the workforce because I couldn't really proceed much with less business. So as far as serving the patients, that it did restrict a lot of things, a lot of my services, a lot of my deliveries, a lot of my dealing with the long-term care facilities. So it did affect us, and it had a big impact on the pharmacy, for sure.
So you're currently employed as a staff pharmacist at one of the pharmacies that you own, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could you tell us more about the scope of your employment, both on the staff pharmacist side and the owner side?
Sure. So basically, I'm a staff pharmacist / owner and Orange Express Pharmacy. So I'm doing all the tasks as far as working as a pharmacist between consultation, inventory, dispensing prescriptions, checking on all kind of, training for the staff. Try to always, get my staff up to the level we want it to be. And of course, this is very challenging, but we always try every day. It's not a simple thing, especially when you have new people in the pharmacy, when you get new hire in the pharmacy. Also trying to help the PIC. So the PIC, of course, we always want to make him feel, he's doing the right thing and we're helping him out. We get him all the resources. As far as the manpower resource, which we're trying not to cut corners as much as we can. Even if there is some kind of a challenge because of the restrictions we have, we always try to help the PIC with the education material, with the resources, also with the manpower for the staff to help him out. Training for the staff, it was my main thing. Okay, and this is even what I used to do when I used to work for retail pharmacies before I owned my own pharmacies. So I started to train them. Any important information I would pass to them, try to quiz them every once in a while about things to see if they are, to do random check on different things. Will call bin, prescription, refills, ordering, everything. So I tried to cover every aspect with them as much as I can.
Okay, thank you. So one of the terms of your probation is that you are not allowed to act as the pharmacist in charge of any pharmacy. If the board grants your petition for early termination, do you plan on becoming the PIC again?
Yes. Yes, I'm planning on becoming a PIC. I want to make myself more available, and I try to, like I said, to continue and pursue this career and try to help out in our community and expand the pharmacy services too. And I think it would be easier than just working with a PIC. If I get the opportunity to be on a PIC again, it would be easier for me to expand all this knowledge and experience I got the past 3 years.
Do you believe that you're capable of resuming the position of PIC without any restrictions?
Yes, I do. Like I said before, working on all this red flags and getting all this training and try to be compliant all the time, keeping myself and my staff updated with everything happening and the new laws and the new and being or having a very strict process. I think I'm capable of doing it without close monitoring.
Okay. So why should the board and the public trust you? I mean, obviously, you're trying to get your probation terminated early, so it would be expected that you will say the right thing for the board to believe you. But can you tell us why would we, as a public, trust you again with the position of pharmacist in charge?
So during my probation, I was trying to work really hard to prove that, to bring that trust back. Like I said, I did the mistake. I acknowledge it's a huge mistake. And I tried to overcome all these problems that happened in the past. And that took me this past 3 years working hard, trying to educate myself, educate my staff, being professional again, being humble again, be better pharmacist. So I think it was all the hard work I tried to do. Maybe the board can allow me to be a pharmacist with full authority again and have my PIC back.
So at this point, you believe that you have been fully rehabilitated and you can serve as a pharmacist without the board supervision?
Yes, I am. I think with all the practice I did, I think I'm qualified to be at that level. I'm being, the professional pharmacist who can help the patients again and help the community.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you, Mr. Petrozelka. Ms. Trauma, any cross?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few questions. Now, you were the owner of the pharmacy which did business as Coles Village Pharmacy in Fontana, California. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your license was put on probation for violating corresponding responsibilities, correct?
Yes.
What do you think are the reasons for why that occurred? Like, what led to the violation?
Why I got the violation?
Yeah, what circumstances or why did that occur?
Well, mainly it's not paying attention to a lot of details as far as dispensing controlled substance and causing that mistake where there is stuff that got overlooked and not doing the right thing at the time and fully monitor. Even if sometimes you feel like you're doing the right thing, but obviously after this got brought up and got investigated, I knew it's a big mistake, and I had to correct it.
So at the time that you were filling the controlled substances, do you feel like you understood what corresponding responsibility was?
I did understand it to a certain extent, but apparently I wasn't fully understanding it like I do now.
How do you think your actions at Coles Village has impacted the opioid epidemic, if at all?
It could impact the opioid epidemic at some extent, but that's why I'm trying my best right now for now and the past 3 years to correct the action.
When, as part of the settlement that put your license on probation, you ended up surrendering your pharmacy permit in Coles Village. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're the owner of 2 other pharmacies, both named Orange Express, one in Moreno Valley and one in Orange?
Yes.
Okay. And you had indicated in your direct that you were working as a staff pharmacist at Orange Express. Do you work at both locations or just one location?
Mainly in Moreno Valley, and that was the advice from the board inspector.
Okay, so you mainly work at the Moreno Valley, but do you do some staff pharmacist hours at the Orange location as well?
No.
No, okay. And how many hours are you working as a pharmacist at the Moreno Valley location?
So the probation, it was for 40 hours a month, but a lot of time I do more than 3-4 days out of the week.
Okay, and is your time at the pharmacy working as in a staff pharmacist role, or is it more in the ownership capacity? Can you explain how you divide your time?
So my time, it would be a mix of both, which is what I used to do for years. So obviously when I'm there, I am a staff pharmacist, and if there is opportunity to manage as a pharmacy owner, when we have a downtime or something, I would do so. So working as a staff pharmacist, which is doing the tasks for any staff pharmacist should do, between dispensing, between inventory, between training staff, taking phone calls, consultation over the phone, checking on dispensing prescriptions as far as will call bin, try to control the whole operation. The other side, which is working as an owner, which is watching for for the other stuff, for the invoices, doing the hiring, doing the HR. That's another thing I was doing, but I try to do both as much as I can, and mainly or mainly is a pharmacist task first. Those are the ones that come first, and well, like every pharmacy, when we have a downtime, this is when I start managing as an owner.
When you're there at the Moreno Valley location, is there also another staff pharmacist on duty as well at the same time with you?
Yes. So not necessarily for him to be there, but most of the time there is a staff pharmacist, which is the PIC. And I take the opportunity to, I always like to work at least 1 or 2 days with him, just to make sure everything is running smooth in the operation. So yes, I do have the, I have no restriction to work by myself, which is I did before, but sometimes I prefer to have that PIC around to make sure, everything is running smoothly and we're up to, what the board standards are, especially when, when we get a visit from the board, I make sure, we're always there, me and the PIC. So if you have any comments for both of us, great. We're trying to do our best to accommodate.
Okay, so if I'm understanding your response, it's that sometimes you have the PIC there with you who's working in a staff pharmacist role, but sometimes you don't, and sometimes you're the only staff pharmacist there. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. During your first year of probation, you are not authorized to handle Schedule II controlled substances, correct?
Yes.
And now you are able to handle C2s again, correct?
Yes.
And have you, since that prohibition has been lifted, have you filled any C2s?
Very, very few times, but if I have to, I do fill it. Yes.
Okay, so primarily would it be the pharmacist in charge who's filling the C2s at your pharmacy?
Yes.
Okay. And do you try to limit your exposure to filling C2s at this point?
I'm not trying to limit my exposure. Like I said, when we had that kind of probation, our C2s count is way less than before. So, the amount of inventory we're getting is not that much. We barely fill like 1 or 2 prescriptions. So there is some circumstances too. It made me, not to fill C2s because, we're not getting that much in the pharmacy. And even if we are, I assure you, we will handle it right, because whatever we have right now, we handle it right and we do our best, either me or the PIC.
What sort of policies or procedures are in place at your pharmacies to ensure that your pharmacies are dispensing legitimate prescriptions?
So we have those list of red flags we look at. And those red flags, they're very common red flags. It's not like something we created, or, they are on the board website. They are, we get advised with them from the inspectors. And so the criteria we're looking at as far as getting controlled prescription or C2 prescription is the patient age. We always ask for the diagnosis. We check the patient history on cures, and we look for any duplicate therapy. Other red flag, which we learned from the past, is cash prescriptions. It really has to be some legit reason why the patient is paying cash. Maybe their insurance got terminated or anything like that. Besides that, if it's a cash prescription and we're not feeling comfortable with, we investigate more. So with all red flags, they have to be cleared if we're gonna dispense the prescription, or if we're taking the decision to dispense the prescription. If they're not cleared, we cannot dispense it.
And when you say if they're not cleared, how are they cleared?
Clear by having a discussion with the doctor, have the doctor give us a responsible or convincing response about the prescription. So, for example, if there is a therapeutic duplication and controls, we need to know why. We need to investigate why is prescribing clonazepam and is prescribing lorazepam or something like that. And if it doesn't make sense and it doesn't really go with our criteria, we don't really approve it to fill.
So in the underlying case, there were several prescribers who were not issuing prescriptions for legitimate medical purposes. However, you were verifying and then filling those prescriptions. So how do you ensure now that the doctors who you're verifying these prescriptions are actually issuing for legitimate purposes?
Like I said, before, we didn't have that. It wasn't that to that extent where we go and monitor everything in the prescription. It was a verification, it was a legit prescription, or it was prescription written by the doctor per se, but we weren't investigating as much as we do now. So the amount of investigation and the information we tried to get about every single prescription, trust me, this is not simple. Like we sometimes prescriptions take us like half an hour to an hour longer, or sometimes we leave it for a day until we get the right response. So before, we were just getting the verification and that's it. Now, no, we're verifying every single item, everything. Does it make sense on the prescription or not? So this is the difference between us now and before. We just get through everything on that prescription, starting from patient age, medication, what kind of medication, how long they've been on it, how often does he take it, compared to the diagnosis he have, does he really need it that much or not? So it's more of a, we give like a way of a closer look and everything on that prescription, and we investigate every single item, which is, it wasn't done properly, obviously, before. That's why we had this issue.
Okay. You had testified that if your probation is terminated, you intended to become a pharmacist in charge. Would that be at the Moreno Valley location or the Orange location?
Either way, I prefer to be in Moreno Valley because this is where I work and this is where I want to serve my patients.
Would you keep the pharmacist in charge at the Orange location? Is that your plan?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have a plan to own more pharmacies?
Well, if this is gonna help me to serve more patients, I would do it. But for now, I want to expand the service I have. This is more important for me.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Trauma. I'll now see if the board members have any questions, starting with President O.
Hi, Your Honor. I would like to go last, so if we could just survey any other members first. Thank you so much.
That's fine. We'll start then with Dr. Crowley.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I do have a few follow-up questions. I want to get, I guess, more detail in regards to the prescribers, and you had talked a little bit about red flags, but I didn't really hear a direct answer in terms of what it is that you're looking for from a prescriber when you're evaluating the appropriateness of a controlled substance. I know you did mention if there's multiple, excuse me, multiple conditions or multiple medications that may be duplicate therapy, but specifically, what are you looking for from the prescriber end when you're evaluating if they're appropriate to dispense a specific controlled substance?
So what I'm looking for, first of all, I would like to get his feedback when we call, or his explanation if something really has a red flag. and I'm looking for him to sometimes to change to some kind of alternative, which it would be a lower risk. That could be a lower dose. It could be non-controlled substance instead of using controlled substance. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for reasonable explanation when I see that red flag. And at the end of the day, it's my judgment to dispense it or not. So, but I would like to get, I would like to work with them in a way where it can help me and help them to make sure that patient is safe. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, so aside from the medication itself, if you're looking to evaluate a prescription, and the reason why I'm asking this is because I do have a note here, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there was a physician who had died in 2016 who you were filling controlled substances for. And so when you're taking a look at a prescription from a prescriber, what is it about the prescriber you're actually looking for? So of course, like the medication itself, the dosing, that's one thing. But in terms of like, are you looking for the diagnosis? What about the prescriber itself are you evaluating to ensure that you don't fill, for example, a prescription from a physician who has died or is no longer practicing?
Okay, so yes, so when we called the clinic to verify, now our procedure is trying, like I said, we try to talk to the prescriber himself, okay, and try to verify everything. And apparently there was some kind of drug diversion scheme happening where some doctors, they claim there's some doctors in this clinic and people, they would answer. I'm not saying that wasn't wrong. I'm just saying we weren't really investigating the way we should investigate at this point. And I kind of like, I'm trying to remember what you're referring to. Yes, so even you're saying the doctor died or passed away and there is few prescription got dispensed. As a pharmacist, we called and verified, and but you have to understand, medical field is very challenging. So, like I said, now I would stop the prescription. I would wait for even few days to dispense it to get the right answer and to talk to the physician. Before, if some of the staff would answer and give you the verification and all the information of the clinic is is correct, we would just verify it and go with it. So the difference between before and now, we're trying to investigate more. We try to talk to the prescriber himself, okay? And obviously, such a mistake as filling this kind of prescription, it won't happen again, because one of the main things we're doing when we get the new prescription, we check on the prescriber license right away and try to make ourselves familiar with it. And the other thing we're doing is we dispense to prescribers they are in the area. So whichever prescription I get, if the name doesn't really sound familiar to me, it would be like 100 times investigation than before until I find out, is he a new prescriber in the area? Is he far? Is he, his license is still valid? Or if there is any problem as far as, he exists or doesn't exist. So these kind of mistakes we're avoiding right now, for sure.
Great, thank you. You had mentioned in your petition packet that you, excuse me, hold corresponding responsibility and due diligence training for your staff. Can you describe to us a little bit of what that entails and how often those trainings occur?
So this training occurs it could occur every day. It could occur once a week. So it really depends on what kind of information or new information we receive. Mainly on a weekly basis, like at the end of the week, I would have a quick rundown with the staff on everything that happened during the week. I would advise them if there is any mistakes. So I have my own notes, okay? And I try to correct them on any of these mistakes. Also, it could happen when we get the board visit. So right after the board visit, if the inspector has any observation for us, I would write down those kind of notes and discuss it with the PIC and just get it done. And what happened the week after and the week after is making sure all of this got received and been worked on by the staff, including the PIC.
Thank you. And then my last question is in regards to some of your letters. There were multiple authors who were not familiar with your discipline, with one author stating that they didn't write the letter. Can you just provide us with some background information on that?
Well, this is something I just heard about. First of all, my letters all came from professional, and that author or that person, I already called to check why she said so, and her kids, they said she's a little bit old and she doesn't really say everything she's supposed to say. Of course, that got me upset because I don't need to, I could have just brought any other patient. But if you look at the other letters, they're coming all from professionals, from people in the medical field, people with license, and even that lady, she said, you know, when I talked to her and her family, they said, we can try to call the board again and tell them, you know, this is our letter. So the signature on that letter, it was hers and Leggett. For some reason, I don't know why she said she didn't write it. Maybe she didn't mean it that way, like she didn't type it out. But it is her signature on the letter, and I would not do anything like that because this is unnecessary, you know.
Thank you. There were a total of 4 authors who said they were not familiar with the discipline. I guess I'm just wondering, were there only certain people who were familiar with the details of the discipline, or can you provide us more background on that aside from that one woman we were discussing?
Well, everything was explained before these people they wrote the letters, okay? But what I think, sometimes they get scared to be asked more questions. So that's why they say that, because put yourself in their position. They're getting asked random questions. They try to help somebody they know because they have a good reference for him, but at the same time, they don't want to mess up some of the details. So that could be it. But I cannot speak on their behalf, you know. But as far as when I checked with everybody, they said we talked to the board, we explained that, and even the letter explaining how come they signed something, it says they are familiar with the case. And they said that on the phone. So I believe that conflict came from, they're a little bit worried about, they're getting asked in more details, and instead of helping George, they would cause a problem. That's how I look at it.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much and good luck with your petition.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chandler, any questions?
No questions.
Dr. Barker?
Hi, yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to ask a question. So you were asked if you were filling C2s currently, and you said that you were doing some, but mostly the current PIC, but that you are not trying to limit your exposure, but that the amount of inventory of your C2s is reduced and you're not getting many of the controlled substance prescriptions. So can you answer why do you think, or why are there less controlled substance prescriptions?
Like I mentioned, because of the wholesalers. So what happened, you have 4 or 5 main wholesalers, and some of them, once they know about the case, they limit the amount of C2 you're getting, or they're not giving you C2 at all. So again, to rephrase what I said, I have no problem dispensing C2 or any controls. It's just, it happened. The number of C2s went down or controls went down for 2 things. For one, we're trying to be extra careful with everything. And sometimes if we see any red flags, we cannot dispense the prescription. So there is no need to order a bunch of C2s if you're not dispensing any. That's one. 2, was some of the wholesalers, like I said, they limit our supply, or they're selling some of the C2s more expensive than the main wholesaler. So that's some kind of management decision. It has nothing to do with my probation, because it would be way more expensive, and I cannot really I cannot really pay for something I'm not getting reimbursed for. But as much as we can, we try to serve the patient, and we try to make it happen too. And this is where the challenge is.
So if you were to see an increase in controlled substances, say at your other pharmacy, would that be a concern at all to you, or what would you do in that situation?
Well, if the increase is legitimate increase and it's covering patients, they deserve to get their medications and everything looks good, I have no problem.
So you would
just have to, it has to be a legit reason to dispense it.
And you would determine it was legit from your other PIC?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Barker. Ms. Cameron Banks?
Thank you, no questions.
Mr. Jha?
Sorry, I was late to unmute. No questions, sir.
Dr. Serpa?
Yes, just a comment. Mr. Abraham, thank you. I wanted to thank you for your complete package and statements and your testimony today. I was curious as to your if you get early termination of probation and you become PIC, what is your plan to deal with the employee that you have as PIC at your current location? Would you keep him on, or open a third pharmacy, or what do you think would happen to that PIC who's been helping you out?
Well, I always try to keep my pharmacist, and believe it or not, that PIC, before he becomes a PIC, he used to help me as a relief pharmacist. So I even when it happened and the first pharmacy in Fontana got closed, I kept my staff. I kept all this workforce, and it was a big budget for me. So trust me, I'm loyal to my staff, like they are loyal to me. So I would try to do my best to keep him, to give him more, or to give him what I can give, what I can offer. Obviously, we're not having a big budget like pharmacies, but we're trying to do our best to accommodate everybody on board.
Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Thibault?
No questions. Mine have already been asked. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Mr. Petrozelka, any follow-up questions for your client?
Just a couple of questions, Your Honor. Mr. Ibrahim, you were asked about the volume of Schedule II controlled substances. And you testified that at the present, some of the prescriptions are filled by the current PIC of the location where you work. Was that decision specifically made to limit your exposure to Schedule II controlled substances, or is it more of a workflow issue?
It's a workflow issue. It's not, like I said, I don't mind dispensing and have more exposure to controlled substance as long as we do everything legitimately. It's just, it is a restriction we had, and we had to deal with it. And I believe what's gonna be done was 1 or 2 or 5 prescriptions, it would be done with 10 prescriptions. We're gonna have to follow these procedures no matter what. I have to be strict about it, and I have to clear and resolve all these red flags before it gets dispensed. Otherwise, it's not gonna be dispensed.
So it is your current policy at both of your pharmacies that each and every prescription for controlled substance, regardless of schedule, is subject to the same evaluation or algorithm to determine whether or not the pharmacist will dispense that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
I should note, Dr. O, you said you wanted to go last, and then I skipped you, so I apologize about that. But I didn't mean
Okay,
to.
Your Honor. I didn't have any questions, so thank you.
Okay. Ms. Trona, any follow-up, Cross?
Just a few follow-up questions regarding the Jackson letter. You had indicated that that was a patient of yours at the pharmacy?
Yes, she used to come and she used to grab over-the-counter medication. She used to give her consultation. She's a Kaiser patient, so she does not grab prescriptions. And I remember her very well. She would not grab regular prescription, but she would grab stuff over the counter. And I wanted to have a variety of reference letter. I mean, I could have just have another physician write a letter, but I wanted to have, you know, all.
Let me stop you, Mr. Ibrahim. You've answered the question. Ms. Trona, do you have any other questions?
Thank you. And did you approach Ms. Jackson personally about writing this letter?
Yes, I did approach her, and she welcomed the whole thing, and that's why I was surprised. I don't know, like I said, some people, they just get scared when they talk over the phone. They think, you know, there's something wrong or they might mess up. But why would she sign it? That's her own signature on the letter, and she put her own information.
Thank you. I understand she signed it. Did you author it for her to sign?
Did I what? I'm sorry?
Did you write it for her to sign?
No, she's the one, like maybe some of her kids wrote it, and maybe because she's an older lady, so maybe she had a family member to type it out for her or something.
Okay.
But I did not type it for her.
No further questions.
All right, let me just see if any board members have any follow-up questions. If you do, just go ahead and begin to speak. All right, hearing none. Mr. Petrozelka, any final questions for the petitioner?
No, Your Honor. I would just like to make a brief closing statement, if I may.
Okay, that's appropriate to do now, seeing as there are no more questions.
Thank you again for giving us the opportunity to present this petition. In conclusion, we have a petitioner who's been practicing for nearly 17 years in the state of California. He served almost 3 years of his probation in full compliance with the terms and conditions. Mr. Ibrahim does recognize the serious nature of his past errors, and he deeply regrets those errors. We believe that the changes in his practice that he implemented over the period of the last 3 years clearly and unequivocally prove that he is rehabilitated at this point of time, and that allowing him to resume unrestricted practice of his profession will not pose any appreciable risk to the public that will be greater than the risk associated with any other practicing pharmacist. And therefore, we respectfully submit that termination of his probation at this point of time would be in the interest of the public. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Petrozelka. Ms. Trauma, I realize you're not here in an adversarial role, but if you'd like to make any closing remarks, you may.
The underlying accusation was serious in nature. The board did determine that 5 years was appropriate at the time they put him on probation. He's served almost 3 of those years, and he has been compliant with probation, but the people do not take a position. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ms. Trauma. That then concludes the hearing. Let me ask Mr. Petrozelka for petitioner, is the matter submitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Trauma for the people, is the matter submitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then the matter is submitted. The case is closed and we will be off the record for that petition. All right, Dr. O, I'll leave it to your good judgment if you'd like to take a brief break or if you'd like to roll right into the next one.
Thank you. We'll take a quick 10-minute break, starting back at 10:45. And in the meantime, if the moderator could please make sure the next petitioners are all ready to go, both the video and audio, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we do have someone logged into the WebEx with the first name Esther. And I was hoping to confirm, are you Esther Kim?
All right. Your Honor, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim, let's just make sure you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Were you observing the previous petition hearing?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you know the process.
Yes.
Once we go on the record, I'll then turn it over to the Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Trauma, to explain a brief history of the license and discipline. We'll then turn it to you. Because you're unrepresented by counsel, you don't have to ask yourself questions. Rather, you would simply just explain in your own words what you think the board should know when deciding your case. After that, I'll give Ms. Trauma, followed by the board members, a chance to ask you some questions. And then I'll give the parties a chance to make any final closing remarks if they would like. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Let me then take us on the record very briefly. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Esther Kim. Matter is being heard before the Board of Pharmacy. It is June 21, 2023 at 10:46 a.m. The board case number on this matter is 6458. My name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge from the Office of Administrative Hearings presiding over this case. The OAH case number is 2023-060307. Can I take the appearances of the parties starting with counsel?
Good morning, Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people under Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. And Ms. Kim, you are joining us by video conference without the assistance of an attorney, is that right?
I'm sorry, without the assistance
of an attorney.
Oh, yes.
Very good. Before we run on the record, I explained the hearing procedures. I'll just briefly summarize that explanation now so your record is complete. In a moment, I'll give Ms. Trauma a chance to present the petition packet as well as to summarize the license and disciplinary history. After she's done that, you'll have a chance to provide additional evidence if you'd like. You can testify on your own behalf. You can also submit additional documents if you would like to do that.
Your Honor, I
Yes.
apologize. Would you like to take the roll call of the board members to make sure?
I do want to do that. Yes, thank you. And I will do that just as soon as I finish explaining the procedures. But thank you. I'd rather be reminded than not. So thank you for that. As I was saying, Ms. Kim, you'll have a right to testify on your own behalf, call additional witnesses, or present additional documents. After that, Ms. Trauma will have a chance to ask you some questions, followed by the board members. Once all the evidence is submitted, the parties can then make brief closing remarks. As Dr. O helpfully reminded us, we do need to establish a quorum in this matter, so I will do that now. Dr. O spoke, so that indicates he's present. Dr. Crowley?
Hello, I'm here.
Mr. Chandler?
Yes.
Dr. Barker?
Present.
Ms. Cameron Banks?
Present.
Mr. Jha?
Present.
Dr. Serpa?
Present.
And Dr. Tebow?
Present.
All right, very good. Those members do constitute a quorum. That takes us now to the case in chief. Ms. Kim, before we proceed, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, Ms. Trauma, you can proceed as you see fit.
Thank you. We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation. The underlying accusation alleged petitioner as president and pharmacist in charge of Heritage Compounding Pharmacy violated laws and regulations governing the practice of pharmacy. Specifically, the violations against the pharmacy and petitioner were allowing a non-pharmacist to have possession of a key to the pharmacy and access to area where dangerous drugs and or controlled substances were stored, furnishing dangerous drugs without a valid prescription, deviating from the requirements of a prescription, writing, filling, compounding, issuing, and dispensing false prescriptions containing fictitious physician information, refilling controlled substances more than 6 months after the prescription was written, submitted false information to cures, acts involving dishonesty, fraud, and deceit, making a document that falsely represents the existence of a fact, engaging in conduct that subverts or attempts to subvert the board investigation, variation from prescription, administering drugs by injection, and general unprofessional conduct. Effective January 28th, 2015, petitioner's pharmacist license was surrendered, and as part of that order, she was ordered to pay the board $13,000 in investigative costs, of which $9,000 was due within 30 days, and the remaining $4,000 was due upon issuance of a new or reinstated license. She timely paid the $9,000. She then applied for a pharmacist license in or around February 2018. She was denied the license and a statement of issues was filed. On February 6, 2019, she appeared at an administrative hearing before the Office of Administrative Hearings on the statement of issues. The ALJ issued a proposed decision, which was adopted by the board effective May 15, 2019. The decision provided that upon satisfaction of all statutory and regulatory requirements for the issuance of a pharmacist license, petitioner's license would be issued, immediately revoked, the order of revocation stayed, and the license placed on probation for 5 years under certain terms and conditions. Petitioner completed the statutory and regulatory requirements and was issued a pharmacist license January 17th, 2020. To date, she's been compliant with reporting on a quarterly basis, has paid the board the remaining $4,000 toward costs, has paid costs associated with probation monitoring, has been employed at least 80 hours per month, with the exception of 1 month where she was told in 2020, has not prepared or participated in preparations of sterile compounding during the first 3 years of probation. She has completed the ethics course, retained a practice supervisor, and has not owned an entity licensed by the board. Petitioner has filed the instant petition seeking to terminate probation, and with her petition, she submitted continuing education certificates, 12 letters of recommendation, of which 11 were verified. I'd like to mark as Exhibit 1 the petition packet, which includes the memo to the board, the petition, and all the documents that were attached to her petition packet, which are Bates labeled AGO 01 through AGO 277, the notice of hearing, and the consent for electronic reporting. Request that the petition packet be marked as Exhibit 1 and entered into evidence. Thank you.
Ms. Kim, do you object to the petition packet being considered as evidence?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. It is now petitioner's opportunity to address the board.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ms. Trauma. Ms. Kim, this is your chance to address the board. Please keep in mind that the board has received the petition and all the supporting documents and has had a chance to review it. So as a result, you don't need to repeat every fact that's contained within there. But if you'd like to draw the board's attention to certain of those facts or explain what you think the board should know when deciding this case, you can do so now.
Okay. Members of the pharmacy board.
Ms. Kim, I apologize. I went too soon. I need to swear you in as a witness before we do that. So go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Now you can explain what you'd like the board to know.
Yeah. I wrote myself so that I will stay focused. Members of the pharmacy board and the Honorable Judge Gavin and Deputy Attorney Trauma, thank you for this opportunity to address all of you. Today I stand before you with the desire to get early probation of my pharmacy license. I understand that my past actions have brought me before this board, and I take full responsibility for the mistakes I have made. I'm sorry. I would like for everyone here on the board to understand that I am sincerely remorseful for my actions, which were not in line with my professional conduct, standards, and responsibilities of a pharmacist. I understand the pharmacy profession requires utmost integrity, responsibility, and dedication to patient care, and I fell short of these standards. There is no excuse for my misconduct. Simply put, I violated the pharmacy law. What I did was fraudulent and wrong. My actions has jeopardized the public safety and compromised the integrity of a pharmacist. Because of my errors, I lost my business, my license, my livelihood, lost friends and family, lost reputation, and most importantly, the trust of the pharmacy board and the public. I cannot undo my past mistakes, but I can learn from my mistakes. And I believe I paid the price, and I respectfully request the board to review my efforts to correct my mistakes I have made. Just a little background. I graduated from USC School of Pharmacy in 1998. I opened up my own compounding pharmacy, Heritage Compounding Pharmacy, in 2005. I received the accusation early 2014, which resulted in surrendering my license in January 2015. Since then till now, 8 years, I have been working on redeeming and reforming myself. During my time away from the profession, I have taken significant steps to reflect my actions and to better myself both personally and professionally. Personally, I've made efforts to volunteer with the community service and organizations as American Red Cross, Women's Bible Study, Community Church, and also Senior Ballroom Dancing to promote healthcare, wellness, and education. I have also made efforts to go back to school and educate myself in other professions, such as taking paralegal classes, so that I could better understand the law. Professionally, I have put in the work and engaged in extensive continuing education courses to ensure my skills and knowledge are up to date with the latest advancement and practice, which has led me once again to pass the State Board of Pharmacy, NAPLEX, and CPJE. As you can see, I've done various volunteer work, but I think the most impactful community service was me making presentation at the California North State University in front of students, pharmacy students in the ethics and professionalism class, where I was able to present what not to do, using myself as a testimony and sharing all the ramifications of my poor judgment, in which I shared all my misconduct, the sequela of events that followed, including my divorce, losing my business and the license and my livelihood. And most importantly, losing the confidence of my kids. And the public. Another big breakthrough was when I enrolled in PBI Pharmacy Ethics and Professionalism. Part of the course discussed the psychological aspects of why I did what I did. And I realized being a middle child of an immigrant family, I was responsible for being the problem solver and being the English interpreter for my parents and for my siblings. And I realized this was a big vulnerability. And the class helped me to recognize my shortcomings and my vulnerability. Furthermore, I have also sought and received guidance from experienced mentors and colleagues, and have helped me gain a deeper and better understanding of the ethical and professional responsibility that come with being a pharmacist. Through the personal and professional experience I have undertaken, I have only developed a stronger appreciation and dedication of the impact a pharmacist can have on individuals and communities. So much that it reinforced my commitment to upholding the highest standard of care if given the opportunity. Currently, I work in Grove Harbor Pharmacy in Garden Grove. I am supervised with the supervising pharmacist 100% of the time. I do patient counseling, education, checking and verifying prescription, identifying drug interactions, and MTM, which is known as medication therapy management. I also volunteer at the Fullerton Acupuncture and Herbs part-time, and I mostly review medications with herbs and to see if there's any drug interaction and provide supplemental nutrition information, because a lot of patients nowadays want to do alternative integrative health. In summary, I admit I used poor judgment, broke the law, and falsified records. Reflecting back, I have done a lot of repentance and regret. It was a total lapse in judgment, thinking I'm helping someone, but in reality, committing fraud. There is no logic or explanation, purely lack of judgment. Through this, I have learned how important reputation and your track record is. How important trust must be earned and maintained, and how easily it can be vanished. I have learned my lesson. I will not make the same mistake again. My family, especially my kids, have faced the consequences of my actions. I did not lay a good example for them. I recognize that fully unrestricted license is a privilege that is earned. And I want to assure to the board that I have learned from my past mistake, and I am fully dedicated to being a practicing pharmacy with the utmost integrity, and above all, putting patient care first and foremost. I take full responsibility for my past actions, and I've also made efforts to grow and mature both personally and professionally. Thank you for your time and consideration. And I apologize. I told myself I'm gonna cry. This has been such an emotional event for me, and I will never forget.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Kim. I'll now turn it over to Ms. Drama for any cross.
One of the questions in your petition asked if you were on probation for any administrative violations in this state, and you marked the box no. You are on probation now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I misunderstood the question. I don't know what I was thinking. So Raymond reached out to me to correct it.
Okay. So you meant to mark, yes, you are on probation.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole petition, is that I'm on. So I don't know why I did that.
And one of the other questions was if you ever had disciplinary action taken against your pharmacist license in this state, and you marked the box no.
Yes, same.
Why did you mark no?
Yeah, I don't know why. I think I misunderstood it, or I don't know what I was thinking, because the whole thing is about my discipline. So, and then I corrected it with Raymond's help. Yes.
Okay. You owned a pharmacy, Heritage Compounding Pharmacy, correct?
Yes.
And you surrendered your pharmacist and compounding license in pharmacy licenses in 2015, correct?
Yes.
And that was after you were found to have created and dispensed prescriptions under the name Dr. Heritage, correct?
Yes.
And some of these were controlled substances, is that right?
Yes.
Your motive was to help out a patient, is that right?
I'm sorry?
The motive for creating the Dr. Heritage prescriptions was to help a patient.
Yes, but now that I think about it, that that created all these problems, and it was poor judgment, and it wasn't helping her. It was actually could lead to harming her. So.
And at the time you did it, you thought you could do this because you could fit it under an emergency exception?
Yeah, she was on progesterone cream, testosterone cream, and she ran out of refills, and she lost everything financially and couldn't afford it. And so I need to legally put a prescription, but she had no refill, so I didn't want to put it in the doctor's name. I wanted to keep full accountability of what I'm doing and get the prescription later. I mean, there's no excuse. So anyways, I put it because the pharmacy name is Heritage, so I put Dr. Heritage, and I've used Dr. Heritage for vitamins because a lot of my patients are on adrenal vitamins, thyroid vitamins, along with the prescription, and it's not a prescription, so I would use Dr. Heritage because, I would have monthly orders that I automatically mail out. So Dr. Heritage was used, just so that I could give the prescription along with the vitamins and put instructions on there with the label. And so that's what I was used. And so when this one patient came, and I knew her for a couple years, that she wasn't a crazy lady. I mean, this doesn't justify anything, but my thought at the time was, you could do emergency one time, do the right thing and put, doctor didn't, prescribe that, put our pharmacy name and get the prescription later. And then that never happened, and it went over a year of refilling the progesterone cream and testosterone cream because.
And you would agree that that wouldn't fit under an emergency exception then, filling a prescription for more than a year?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But I do know that when the woman's hormone is not imbalanced, it could really destroy her ability to function and sleep and to have energy to go to work. But that doesn't, justify anything. But you ask how the Heritage was used, Dr. Heritage, was because I didn't want to put the doctor because he did not authorize any further refills. And she didn't have any insurance. And the doctor was a integrative cash paying doctor. And so it's just long story short, it was a poor judgment.
So if this scenario happened now, how would you react or how would you treat this situation?
I would find a ways to talk to the doctor or find doctors who do it pro bono for situations like this, or even to her, general doctor, who may be open to bioidentical hormones.
Well, one of the allegations in the accusation is that you attempted to subvert the investigation by deleting records related to Dr. Heritage prescriptions. And just so I'm clear from the testimony you provided in the last case, did you do this because you wanted to ensure that those prescriptions were inactivated and couldn't be filled again?
Yes, because, oh my God, I didn't want the same thing happen when I'm not there. So all I did was simply click on, you have the pharmacy program software. I just took the Dr. Heritage out because that wasn't a real doctor. Anyways, I used it for vitamins. And so by just taking that out, the prescription was gone. So I can't even explain it. So that's what happened.
Okay, when you did this, it caused all the records relating to Dr. Heritage to be removed from the computer system, correct?
I believe so.
And that prevented the board inspector from investigating how many prescriptions have been filled and how many patients were involved. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but when they first came, they had the initial inventory of all patients involved with Dr. Heritage, so they did have a copy of it.
Okay. Do you see why a board inspector could find it problematic that you're deleting anything from pharmacy records?
Yes.
Okay.
But the attempt, there's no excuse. There is no excuse. Yes.
Okay. Looking back on it, the whole deleting of pharmacy records, would you do anything differently?
No. Part of the inspector was, I need you to correct the situation and come up with steps of what you've done to correct the situation. So in my defense, I mean, that was what I thought. And when he came for the second time, I explained to him exactly what I did. You know, it wasn't to hide from it. It was my way of correcting.
So looking back on the whole deleting of pharmacy records, would you do that now or would you do something differently now?
There's no need to do that. No, you know, you just follow the pharmacy law and there's no need to do any of that.
When the board gave you back your license, it found that a 5-year probationary period was necessary. Why should the board terminate you early?
Because I think I've learned my lesson, and I'm deeply, I deeply regret what I did. I should have found other ways to help the patient. What I did was just pure lapse in judgment and misconduct, and I regret it. And I think I've learned my lesson.
When your license was reinstated, the ALJ issued a decision stating that there were further steps you could take, including therapy. What sort of therapy have you engaged in since having your license reinstated?
I belong to a church women's Bible study that has helped so much. We meet on a weekly basis. That's my therapy. You know, teaching ballroom dancing with senior dancing is my therapy. You know, talking to, you know, my colleagues about, you know, the stuff that I've done and what I'm trying to do to get better, and sharing my story with, you know, future pharmacy students, you know, has helped me to understand what I've done and the impact I've done to the public.
Have you had any therapy with like a mental health professional since your license was reinstated?
Yes, I've also had mental doctor, but I didn't have insurance at the time, and so I'm currently looking for a therapist.
Okay. Now, if your license is, if your probation is terminated early, do you intend to work at a chain or an independent? What are your plans?
I would like to go back to being a hospital pharmacist.
Do you intend to compound again?
No, not at this time.
Do you intend to go back to being a pharmacist in charge?
No.
How will you ensure that you will remain compliant of our pharmacy laws if your probation is terminated early?
I could only give you my word and my testimony today, and the testimony of my letters of recommendation. I believe I've learned my lesson, and that's really all I could do, to give you my word and to give me a second chance.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. That takes us now to the board, and I'll start with Dr. Crowley. Do you have any questions?
I do. Thank you, Your Honor. So I was reviewing your CEs, and I just want to double check that I'm reading them correctly. Did you have any CEs that occurred between June 2020 and December 2022?
I've done a lot of CEs since, I don't know, since 2016, all the way to, yeah, I believe so. So I have over 100 units.
Okay, yeah, because I noticed, I'm not sure if I was misreading it, but I thought there was a big gap between those 2 years.
Yeah,
Like most of them were clustered in certain periods. Is that accurate?
Yeah, because I believe I took some time to take a study for the board exam, you know, which took some time. It was, yeah.
Congratulations on passing the board exam, by the way. Not easy to study for and retake.
Yeah.
And then the other question I have is, are you currently working in a pharmacy?
Yeah, I mentioned Grove Harbor Pharmacy in Garden Grove.
What type of pharmacy is that?
It's Garden Grove Hospital Pharmacy. It's, yeah, Grove Harbor Medical Pharmacy, yes.
What has changed in terms of your practice since beginning to work there again?
I don't do compounding. I don't do, you know, hormone, BHRT, you know. My old pharmacy, that's really the main thing I did was meet with patients, you know, did lab reviews, do saliva testing, and then work with the doctor with coming up with best dosing, you know, for the patient, for her symptoms. That's what I did. I do none of that now. I do regular retail.
In terms of how you practice, like personally, are there any changes that you want to just kind of describe to us briefly?
I work with supervising pharmacists 100% of the time. And it's a regular retail pharmacy where you check prescription, you know, supervise the technician, take in new prescription, do patient education, you know, the regular retail pharmacy.
So it's a retail pharmacy within a hospital?
Yes. So yeah, it's on the first floor. Yes.
So are you looking to transition to the inpatient end eventually?
Yeah. Before I owned my own compounding pharmacy, I was an inpatient hospital pharmacist. So I would like to go back.
Okay. Great. I don't have any further questions. Good luck on your petition.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chandler, any questions?
Yes, could you provide us your definition of compounding or corresponding responsibility?
I'm sorry, definition for compounding?
Corresponding responsibility.
It's my responsibility to make sure that the prescription is written correctly for the right dose, for the right condition, for the right patient, you know, and the direction and the dosage is correct. And the diagnosis is appropriate and the dosage as well.
And how has your how did your view of corresponding responsibility impact the original cause for original complaint, and how is your interpretation or vision of corresponding responsibility changed between the original complaint and today?
I'm not. If there's no refills, don't fill it. You know, when you have prescription, always check to see if this is legitimate for the right diagnosis, right dosage. You know, is this a legit prescription?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chandler. Dr. Barker, any questions?
Hi, yes, I just have one question. So you stated that you thought you were helping patients when you were, of course, you found out actually violating laws and regulations. Then you said moving forward, if you were to be granted early probation, you would put patients first and foremost. So how will you guide your judgment and corresponding responsibility to both serve patients and follow all the laws and regulations?
Right. Yeah, so I was thinking I was helping it, but that wasn't supervised. I mean, it's cream and it's prescription. Testosterone is a controlled substance, so it needs to be supervised and be monitored by the doctor. And I totally neglected that, and it was a total lapse in judgment. So what I would have done differently is to direct her to a free clinic or work with her doctor who was willing to do it pro bono, like I stated earlier. I would have done the correct channel to do it the legal way.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions from Ms. Cameron Banks?
Thank you. No questions.
Mr. Jha?
No questions, sir.
Dr. Serpa?
Yes, Dr. Kim, I was reading your case and there was some information there about providing injections at your previous pharmacy. Can you give me a little bit of background about what you were doing and why?
Oh, yeah. A lot of our patients had a lot of energy and adrenal fatigue issue, and they had actual prescription for B12 vitamin shots. But they were afraid to do the injection and didn't know how to do it. They got the legal prescription, prescription wasn't the issue, but they didn't know. And so I have the training to do immunization. So I'm like, okay, I could teach you, but I didn't know that was against the law, So I helped them to administer their B12 vitamin shot because I thought I am trained. I'm allowed to give immunization, which is a lot more, stronger prescription, I would think, than a vitamin shot, and the patient doesn't know how to give it to themselves.
So
But that wasn't in the scope of my license, and so I violated the law again. Yes.
So were you training individuals or actually administering it?
I was administering it to the patient, yes.
And was a part of your pharmacy business to recommend B12 shots and to get prescriptions for them, or you were just responding to prescriptions that were coming to you?
I was responding to the prescription.
Okay. My other question is about hospital practice. And it is interesting that you're working in the retail setting in the hospital because that will give you more opportunities to learn and to train in the hospital rather than getting another job. Have you had those discussions with leadership there? And what kinds of things are you planning on doing or are doing to train to work in a hospital setting, inpatient?
Yeah, I applied for a hospital position, but finding job when you need 100% supervision, nobody wants to hire you. And so, I was so grateful that Grove Harbor Pharmacy, is willing to take that chance to work with me.
So what are your plans or what are they going to do to help you get training to work for inpatient?
I've worked in inpatient over 10 years, so I'm hoping with my past experience that I'm able to go in. Yeah, going back to the hospital.
Have you talked to administration about that?
Which administration are you talking
Your hospital's administration about your interest in transferring?
No, I have not. I worked in a retail pharmacy. It is in the hospital, but it's downstairs, but it has nothing to do with the hospital. It's just the retail.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Tebow, any questions?
Yes, thank you. I think we touched on this a little bit, but just wanted to clarify. So it's a very routine situation that a patient needs help. They're struggling financially, they're out of prescriptions, all of those things. And that seemed to be the basis of some of your issues in the past. So what tools do you use now when you have that patient in front of you who is in that sort of situation to make sure we don't repeat what happened in the past?
Simple, no refills. If you don't have refills, don't refill it. That's it. It's just simple. Just follow the rules.
Okay. And how do you practice staying up to date on the pharmacy laws?
Like I said, I recently took the board exams, so I had to take a lot of CEs. But yes, I do the script and pharmacy newsletter, and just getting the emails from all the the recalls. I mean, and going to the board, you have so much information.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate your vulnerability in talking to us today, and wish you luck. No further questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tebow. And Dr. O.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
All right, Dr. Kim, any additional statements you'd like to make on your own behalf?
Yeah, I don't have a witness for me, but I just want to show this book, Beautifully Broken. One of my patients wrote this, and in here there's a chapter about me, about how I intervened and helped. And I would like to go back to that person and to clear my name and to start all over again. And you have the copy of those chapters in the packet with the author's name is Irene Glass, and she also was one of the authors of my recommendation. But I thank you for your time and consideration for my early termination.
All right, thank you. Ms. Trauma, any follow-up questions?
Nothing further from me, Your Honor.
Ms. Trauma, I wanted to clarify one thing for when the decision gets written. On AGO 003, I just want to confirm that the timing of the license status. Under licensing status, just let me know when you're there at that page.
I'm there.
The second paragraph says that it was issued January 17, 2020, and it'll expire July 31, 2023, but it was a 5-year probation. So is that a typo?
No, they have to renew the license. So I believe I can, if you'd like to give me just a minute, I can double check on the board's website. But my understanding is that it was issued on 2020 once she had passed the exam, and then she has to periodically renew. So she's probably in the process of renewing at this point. We can ask her to clarify, but it will expire on 2023, but that's not when her probation expires. Her probation will expire in 2015.
I now fully understand. Thank you. I wanted to make sure it wasn't that the probation would end. It was that the license needs to be renewed by that date. So thank you for that. All right. Ms. Kim, or Dr. Kim, pardon me, I did say that you would have a chance to make any closing remarks if you'd like, and you will have that chance now. Would you like to make any closing argument?
No, that's all.
Okay. Ms. Trauma, any final remarks?
No, the people will submit.
Okay. Dr. Kim, is the matter submitted?
Yes.
Okay, then the matter is submitted. The case is considered closed and will be off the record for this matter.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. O, I'll leave it to your good judgment if you'd like to take a break or roll it directly to the next hearing, or how you'd like to manage the lunch break. It's really just up to you.
Thank you. Due to some quorum concerns with some members, we're going to probably have to proceed through one. So we're going to proceed to the next one and probably take a lunch break at 1. So okay. Hopefully that's okay. Sorry, members, little bit tougher. So we'll proceed to the next one.
And this is the moderator. I do see Elaine Furlow in the audience. Elaine, I'm going to make you a panelist. That gives you the ability to unmute yourself And it will also give you the ability to turn on your camera. So if you'd like to unmute, okay, you're unmuted. Perfect, we can hear you. And were you hoping to use a camera?
Yes, ma'am. How do I turn this on, please?
Sure.
Oh, start video.
Yes. And there you are.
Hello. Good morning.
Wonderful, good morning.
All right, Ms. Furlow, good morning. Were you able to sit through the other petition hearings?
I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
Okay, so you have a sense of how this will go.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Let me briefly get your paperwork so I can take this on the record. All right, and Dr. O, you ready to go back on the record?
Here, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Trauma, are you ready to go back on?
Ready.
All right. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Elaine J. Furlow. This matter is being heard before the California State Board of Pharmacy. It is agency case number 2906. My name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to hear this case. The OAH case number, to preside over this case. The OAH case number is 2023-060-315. Can I take the appearances of the parties, starting with counsel?
Good morning, Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people under Government Code Section 11522.
All right, and also with us, we have the petitioner, Ms. Furlow, by video conference without the assistance of an attorney. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, very good. You had the explanation while we were off the record, but I'll just briefly explain so while we're on the record, so your record is complete. In a moment, after I take a quorum of the board members, I'll give Ms. Trauma a chance to just briefly explain the license and disciplinary history and to present the petition and supporting documents. After that, you'll have a chance to present additional evidence. You can testify on your own behalf. You can call additional witnesses or present additional documents. After that, Ms. Trauma will have a chance to ask you some questions, followed by each of the board members. At the conclusion of the hearing, the parties are free to make closing remarks if they would like. Any questions about that process?
No, Your Honor.
All right, let me then briefly just establish a quorum. Dr. O?
Sorry, Your Honor, a little slow to the mute. I'm here.
Not to worry. Dr. Crowley?
I'm here.
Mr. Chandler?
Here.
Dr. Barker?
Present.
Ms. Cameron Banks?
Here.
Mr. Jha?
Present.
Dr. Serpa?
Here.
And Dr. Tebow?
Present.
All right, thank you. Those members establish a quorum. Ms. Trauma, you can proceed as you see fit.
Thank you. We're here today on a petition for reinstatement of a pharmacy technician license. The original accusation alleged petitioner violated laws and regulations governing the practice of pharmacy. Specifically, she had been convicted of a substantially related crime in that on July 28, 2005, she was convicted of second-degree commercial burglary, possession of a forged item, and eluding/fleeing from a pursuing officer. All felonies. In addition, on March 24th, 2005, she was convicted of misdemeanor forgery. The accusation also alleged she committed acts of dishonesty, fraud, or deceit, made a document that falsely represented the existence of facts, and possessed or used methamphetamine without a prescription. Effective August 24, 2006, her pharmacy technician license was revoked by default. She petitioned for reinstatement before the Board of Pharmacy before. That matter was heard on March 17th, 2014, and the petition was denied May 9th, 2014. She has now filed the instant petition for reinstatement, and included in her packet are 4 recommendation letters, all verified, a certificate of rehabilitation, a letter from the South Coast Parole Unit indicating that she was discharged from parole on September 11th, 2008, a copy of her registered dental assistant license, which was issued by the Dental Board of California, a letter from the Orange County Dental Careers. While she's not required to do continuing education for the Board of Pharmacy, she has, however, included various certificates of achievements and certificates of completion, some of which appear to be related to her registered dental assistant license. Exhibit 1 is the petition packet I would like to mark. It includes the memo to the board, the petition, and all the documents attached to per petition, which are Bates labeled AGO 01 through AGO 43, the notice of hearing, and the consent for electronic reporting. I'd like to mark that and admit it into evidence.
Ms. Fuller, do you object?
Do I object, Your Honor? No.
Okay, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. It's now petitioner's chance to address the board.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elaine Furlow.
Hang on 1 second, Ms. Furlow. I need to swear you in.
Okay.
I see your right hand is raised. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you can put your hand down, and now you can explain in your own words what you think the board should know.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elaine Furlow, and I was awarded a certificate of rehabilitation by the Orange County Superior Court in June of 2021. And currently, I'm in process of getting a governor's pardon. And I am very remorseful for all the mistakes I did in the past and wish that I can be given the chance to practice my profession as a pharmacy technician again. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Furlow. I'll now open it up for questions. Ms. Trauma, if you have any thoughts, you can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Can you explain for us the circumstances that led to your conviction for the second-degree commercial burglary, possession of a forged item, and eluding the police?
Yeah, what happened was I was with riding with someone and she had warrants. And actually she argued with her boyfriend, but I was on the back seat. The boyfriend left, so I ended up like, I wanted to go home. So I drove the car. When I was driving the car, she said, "Don't stop," because I failed to stop at the stop sign. And she said, "Don't stop because I have a warrant." And I'm like, "What?" So I just went and just didn't stop. And then so everything that was in that car, which is not mine, was put on me because I got associated with the wrong people. And I do understand that, it was my wrong judgment. So they put everything on me since I was driving the car. Everything that was in the car, they put it on me. So that's what happened. But I didn't have any warrants at that time. And how I wish I could have just stopped. And, because I didn't stop at the stop sign. It was a motorcycle cop until it became like a big scene. And then cops were running after me. And then I was scared. So I just didn't.
The accusation alleges that you had entered into a bonds market and that you had forged or altered or counterfeited with the intent to pass a counterfeited check. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I went in there because I was hoping I could buy something, but because I was I didn't have money and I didn't know what to do, how to get money. So I tried doing it, then I got scared. So I said, I didn't want to do it anymore. So I went outside.
Okay. And then your other conviction regarding forgery, you were in possession of stolen credit cards, social security cards, bank statements, payroll checks, and a forged check. Can you tell us about that?
I had nothing to do with that.
Okay. Now you were incarcerated for your conviction relating to the second-degree commercial burglary and eluding the police, correct?
Just for eluding the police, ma'am, was my control charge.
Okay. What were the dates that you were incarcerated?
I got incarcerated in 2005. That's when I went to prison. I was sent to Valley State Prison for Women. That's in the north side.
Was it approximately August 2005 to around March 2006?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were released from custody and put on parole March 11th, 2006?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I was not aware that I could have had that chance of actually being on probation first and eventually, not losing my license. I just didn't, I just was so depressed and I didn't know that I could have had that chance, but then I blew it. So I regretted the fact that I was given by the chance of the Board of Pharmacy to be under probation for my license not to be revoked. That's why it got revoked by default, ma'am.
Okay, you were released from parole on September 11th, 2008?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you indicated that you had received a certificate of rehabilitation from the court in 2021, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're in the process of getting a pardon from the governor?
Yes.
Okay. When did you, or what is the status of that?
Well, for governor's pardon, actually, when you get approved for a certificate of rehabilitation, they automatically send your application to governor's office. So I actually had to follow up, and they said there's no time frame with regards to that. So I'm still keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay. In your petition packet, you were asked if you had ever been addicted to the use of narcotics, and you said no. Why did you say no?
Well, it depends on the definition of narcotic. I was on meth, so I'm not sure if that's considered a narcotic because, from my understanding, I read all the meanings, and it's coming from an opioid or some form of opium. So that's I was on meth, and I can say I'm on meth. But then, if that's considered a narcotic, then I have been addicted to narcotics. But in my when I was looking at the definition, it wasn't that kind of like narcotic for meth.
Okay. So you were addicted to methamphetamine?
Yes, ma'am. I used it for my depression. I know I don't have an excuse either with regards to using that, but that was my only way of like coping because I was divorced and I lost my license, and it was just hard for me. But then I have no one to blame but myself.
How long did you use it for?
Maybe a year. And then I thought to myself, I have a daughter, I can't be doing this to myself. So I realized too late. I was already using it for a year. A year's too long. And I did.
When did you stop?
I stopped. Well, when I did what do you call this? A drug class, Narcotics Anonymous. I did it in 2008 because when I got out, I still did it. I did meth still when I got out of prison.
Okay, so you were, just so I'm straight, did you start before you went to prison?
Yeah, before I went to prison, and then after I went out of prison, and then I just started attending the Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous.
Okay, and when
then I did the. Sorry,
I don't mean to talk over you. It's important that we. I apologize.
Sorry.
So when did you stop using methamphetamine?
I stopped in 2006, like towards the end of the year.
Okay. Do you have a date of sobriety?
No, I don't, ma'am, because I just stopped, like out of my own will. I didn't even pay attention to the date.
Some of the conduct in the accusation involved elements of dishonesty. Specifically, how do you think you've rehabilitated yourself from any dishonest conduct?
Well, I accepted the mistakes that I did. I paid my debt to society by going to jail and going through everything. And for me, I think that my certificate of rehabilitation would be like a big impact or a big evidence showing that I have rehabilitated and that my honesty and everything is like, I guess I'm a better person right now, responsible.
You've been working in dental offices since roughly 2019, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're licensed by the dental board as a registered dental assistant?
Yes, ma'am.
You received that license on August 23rd, 2021, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you have a specialty in corneal polish and x-ray, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How do you like being a registered dental assistant?
Well, I love it because I love to like interact with patients, and when they're in pain and they have, I usually get yelled at because when they come in, they're in pain. But then I feel good because they leave by apologizing, and actually they're happy we're able to help them because I'm just there to assist, and make them comfortable.
It seems like you've been doing well as a dental assistant. So why do you want to go back to get your pharmacy technician license?
Because, ma'am, I'm a pharmacist in the Philippines, and I've always wanted to be like a pharmacist. So working in a pharmacy field is one of my dreams. And I know I messed up because I already had that dream, but then making poor judgment and the wrong decisions that I made led me to losing it. So now for me, I would just want to have something that I've always wanted back.
If you get your license back, will you go back to being a pharmacy technician, or do you plan to continue to be a registered dental assistant?
I would want to do both, ma'am. If I'm given the chance by the board of pharmacy, it's because, well, I'm supporting my daughter. She's going to school. I have to work a lot because she's in college, and I think working in both fields would make me happy and busy.
Okay, you had previously petitioned the board for reinstatement, and that was denied, correct?
It was denied. I didn't have a certificate of rehabilitation, and I didn't know how to go buy it, and I didn't know how hard it was to obtain one. So I went through all the process. I went through for my felony being down to misdemeanor and eventually getting dismissed to be approved for a certificate of rehabilitation. I went through a lot, ma'am. I didn't even have a lawyer to represent me. I did it all by myself. So it took me years before I was able to obtain it. So as soon as I obtained it, my first thing was I need to go apply for my pharmacy technician reinstatement if they would let me, because that was the requirement at that time. You're supposed to have a certificate of rehabilitation in 2014, and I didn't have that, but I still challenged myself and I said maybe I can go without and see what maybe they can allow me to have it reinstated. But then of course they denied me. So my objective was to have it reinstated eventually after getting a certificate of rehabilitation. And years has passed, and I became successful, and I'm so happy that I'm able to get that.
Okay, so other than the certificate of rehabilitation, what circumstances have changed since your last petition?
Well, I got married. I got remarried because I was married to my I had a husband at that time when it got revoked and I was going through a divorce. I remarried in 2018, and then I've been involved in we had a California Dental Association what do you call this? It's a convention that we had. So I've been very busy talking to for exhibits, and then them actually wanting to do business with us. I've been taking care of marketing side too, and being really responsible, ma'am. Being really responsible.
If your license is reinstated, what assurances can you provide the board that you will be law-abiding and won't have the same troubles that you had in the past?
Well, my word. I really don't have anything to offer but my word. And I learned from my past, and I know I'm able to pick myself up at least, because most of the people who've been through what I've been through, I think, because it was really bad, they won't be able to pick themselves up. But then instead of me just going down all the way, I thought of I have to be strong for my daughter. I have to be strong for my family. They're my support system, and I have to do what's right all the time. And I have to be responsible enough and accountable for all my actions.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toronto. Let's now turn it over to the board. Dr. Crowley, any questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have any questions.
Mr. Chandler?
No questions.
Dr. Barker?
Hi, no questions.
Ms. Cameron Banks?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Jha?
No questions.
Dr. Serpa?
Yes, just a quick question, Ms. Furlow.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little confused because Ms. Trauma has stated certain convictions that you said, and you disagreed with her, but then later you stated that your convictions were reduced to misdemeanor and then reduced. Is that
Yes,
why
ma'am.
you have differing comments about your convictions?
No, ma'am, because to apply for certificate of rehabilitation, so those felonies remain felonies up to until I had to apply for a certificate of rehabilitation. And one of the requirements was from felony, I still need to have it reduced to misdemeanor and then have it eventually dismissed. So I that's what I've been through with my felony. So I had to go do that first to be qualified for a certificate of rehabilitation, ma'am. It's a process, ma'am.
Okay, so when she stated that you had a felony commercial burglary, you disagreed with her. Is that because it's been reduced, or was that just something you
No,
disagreed?
ma'am, I didn't disagree with her. I
Oh,
actually
okay.
agreed with her, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I was confused. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, and Dr. Tebow, any questions?
No additional questions. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. O, any questions?
No questions at this point. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Trauma, any follow-up questions?
Nothing else for me, Your Honor.
All right. Where did she go? There she is. Ms. Furlow, anything else you'd like to say on your own behalf?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
Everything has been addressed. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this.
You're welcome. Do you have any other witnesses or evidence to offer?
No, sir. No, Your Honor.
Okay. As I said at the beginning, the parties also have the chance to make any closing argument. If you'd like to make any sort of closing remarks, you can do that now.
No, I'm okay, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody.
Hang on one second. Ms. Trauma, any closing remarks?
No, the people will submit.
Okay. Ms. Furlow, is the matter submitted then?
Oh, what's that again, Your Honor?
Is the matter submitted, meaning are you satisfied
Yes.
you've had a full opportunity?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. The matter is submitted. The case is closed and will be off the record for this matter.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. And Dr. O, I get the sense that we're going straight into our final petition then. Is that right?
Yes, but we'll take a quick 5-minute break. We'll come back at 12:01. If that's
All right. Very good. Thank you. Mr. Madrigal, I see that you're there. Let's just do a quick mic check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Very good. Were you able to observe the other petition hearings?
I sure was.
All right. So you know how they'll go. I'll briefly explain once we go on the record the process. But at this point, are you ready to go on the record?
Gladly.
And Ms. Trauma, are you ready to go on the record?
Yes, Your Honor, I did have one housekeeping issue that I wanted to address before we went on the record. It was with regard to my request for a protective order to seal from the public record the letter at AGO 008, which is from his substance abuse treatment provider. I had filed a request for a protective order with my request to set, and I was going to be seeking that a protective order be issued with regard to just that document.
Okay. I'm looking here. I didn't see. When you say you filed it with the request to set, everything was submitted as one packet. Is there a number within the packet that's?
I believe it was the very last document in the packet. But I can also just make an oral motion if it's easier for you, Your Honor.
It's fine. I'm just looking now, and you're right. I do see it there at the very end. So sure, that'll be fine, and we'll address that once we go on the record.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else to take up before we go on the record?
No, Your Honor.
All right. All right. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of David Madrigal. This matter is being heard before the California State Board of Pharmacy with case number 5485. Today is June 21, 2023. It's now 12:07 p.m. My name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to preside over this case. The OAH case number on this matter is 2023-060317, Can I take the appearances of the parties, starting with counsel?
Good afternoon, Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Mr. Madrigal, you are appearing today by video conference without the assistance of an attorney. Is that right?
That is correct.
As I said before we went on the record, I'll briefly explain the hearing procedure so your record is complete. In a moment after I take a quorum of the board, I will turn it over to Ms. Trauma to present the petition packet and also explain the license and disciplinary history. After she's done that, you can present additional evidence in the form of your own testimony. You can also call additional witnesses or submit additional documents. After that, Ms. Trauma, followed by each board member, will have a chance to ask you some questions. At the conclusion of all evidence, the parties can make a brief closing argument if they would like. Any questions about any of that?
No, sir.
All right, let me then establish a board quorum. Dr. O?
Here.
Dr. Crowley?
Here.
Mr. Chandler?
Here.
Dr. Barker?
Present.
Ms. Cameron Banks?
Present.
Mr. Jha?
Present.
Dr. Sherpa?
Present.
And Dr. Tebow?
Present.
All right, thank you very much. Those members constitute a quorum, and Ms. Trauma, you can proceed as you see fit.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're here today on a petition for reinstatement of a pharmacy technician license. The underlying accusation against petitioner alleged violation of laws and regulations governing the practice of pharmacy, and that he unlawfully possessed and self-administered a controlled substance, and he obtained that drug by fraud, deceit, and subterfuge. Specifically, in 2014, petitioner was working as a pharmacy technician at the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation when he stole oxycodone acetaminophen from a fellow employee's locker and self-administered it. Petitioner's license was revoked by default effective March 25th, 2016. He's filed this instant petition for reinstatement and included in his packet is a copy of the prior decision and order, 4 letters of recommendation, all of which have been verified by board staff, and a letter from his substance abuse treatment provider at AGO 008, which the people will request be sealed from the public record as it contains confidential medical information, which would be subject to the privacy, subject to non-disclosure under the privacy provisions of the California Constitution. As a technician, petitioner is not required to do CEs, and I'd like to go ahead and mark as Exhibit 1 the petition packet, which includes a memo to the board, the petition, and all the documents attached to his packet, which are all base labeled AGO 01 through AGO 23, the notice of hearing, and the consent for electronic reporting. I request that be admitted, subject to the protective order sealing AGO 008. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. Mr. Madrigal, first, do you object to the protective order?
No.
Okay, let me just explain it.
Thank you.
Exhibits that are part of the record in a case will be subject to public disclosure. It doesn't mean that there's some database or website that people can access. It means that if people were to make some sort of records request, they would get documents related to your case. A protective order limits that and excludes certain documents on the basis of a variety of things, in this case, your medical privacy. And so Ms. Trauma has asked that the one-page letter from the treatment facility at AGO 008 be excluded from the public record and subject to a protective order. So my first question is, do you object to that in some way?
I do not. No, that's perfectly fine with me.
All right, so I find good cause and I will issue that protective order for that one page. Secondly, Mr. Madrigal, do you object to the board considering the petition packet as Ms. Trauma described it as evidence in this case?
I do not object, no.
All right, Exhibit 1 is admitted and page AGO 008 will be subject to protective order. Thank you for that. Ms. Trauma, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. It is now petitioner's opportunity to address the board once he's sworn in. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Mr. Madrigal, now is your time to present evidence. You can testify, call additional witnesses, or present additional documents. Before you do testify, I'll have you raise your right hand so I can swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, you can put your hand down if you'd like, and you can explain in your own words what you think the board should know in deciding this case.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank the Board of Pharmacy and its members, as well as you, Your Honor, for allowing me to come before you guys to demonstrate why I should have my license reinstated. As elementary as it sounds, I have learned my lesson. I've maintained my sobriety and attend my treatment center. I feel I have matured immensely as a person, and since that, I've become a father to 2 amazing children and a husband to an amazing supportive wife. And just to put it bluntly, furthering my career and providing for my family is my main goal in life. I will not risk anything to jeopardize that. So along with the treatment that I have at Aegis, which includes weekly counseling with my counselor and monthly drug testing, I do attend my church on a weekly basis. I try to kind of help out with the youth with, I guess I consider it my testimony, telling them, that you can overcome addiction, that you can overcome, any obstacles that have been thrown in your life, and you can just persevere. And I try to help out with that when I can, when I'm not busy with work. With all that being said, thank you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll now give Ms. Trauma a chance to ask you any cross-examination questions she has. Okay. Ms. Trauma, you can proceed whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Now, your license was revoked by default after you stole Oxy from your coworker's locker. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
How many occasions did you steal drugs from your coworker?
It was a handful of times. I'd say about 4 times.
How did you know your coworker had drugs in their locker?
He would give them to me. That one occasion he would, I think, and before any of this, I obviously do not blame anybody but myself, obviously. But he would, he would occasionally ask me if I wanted one, and he would tell me, he's like, hey, they're in my locker. We would get to work at the same time, and he would just put them in his locker. None of us would lock our lockers. And yeah, he would have them there, and whenever he would give them to me, he would just give them to me from there, and that's how I knew.
Okay, and were you using these at work?
Yes and no. I would take them when I would pretty much on my way home when I wasn't, because I would carpool with my brother, and I would take it usually at the end of the day.
Now, you were working at the Department of Corrections when you were stealing these drugs, correct?
That is correct.
And you were a pharmacy technician there at the department, employed by the Department of Corrections?
That is correct.
Okay. You'd agree it's pretty risky behavior to steal drugs while working at the Department of Corrections, right?
Oh my goodness, I know how silly and, dumb it sounds, trust me.
How do you feel about your conduct now, looking back on it?
Oh, it has completely done a 180. I have, like I said, my main goal is just to be a great father to my children, and just to be a good example, and try to be a great husband to my wife. And alongside with that, I do like to help other people, like I said, kind of with my testimony, telling them that, hey, you can overcome an addiction, you can overcome any shortcomings that you have. But yes, to answer your question, I feel my conduct has made a 180, and I feel I'm a better person for it.
Did you ever steal drugs from the pharmacy that you worked at?
Oh, never.
You were terminated from your employment at the Department of Corrections, is that right?
That is correct.
And why were you terminated?
Because of that, because I stole from my coworker.
Okay. You were not criminally prosecuted, though, for stealing those drugs?
I was not, no.
Okay. In your petition, you state that you had an addiction to opiates. When did you start using opiates?
Around the time my father fell ill to leukemia, he would kind of have his medication around lying around the house. And not necessarily at the beginning of that, more so when towards the end of his life, he had cancer for about a good 15 years. And he ended up beating it a few times, but it did unfortunately end up getting to him. And that kind of just really got to me towards the end. So I would say around 2012, 2013, and just kind of snowballed from there. And yeah, just kind of.
So around 2012 to 2013, you were using and abusing opiates?
That is correct.
Okay. And what specifically was your drug of choice?
It was the Oxy.
Okay.
The Percocet, yeah.
Were you using it daily?
Just kind of whenever I could get my hands on it, whether it be every other day. To give you a better understanding, I'd say probably about 3 or 4 times a week, maybe.
Okay. And how much were you taking when it got to the worst part?
Worst, I'd say about 2 or 3 pills at a time.
Okay. And what was the dose of that?
So the Percocet was about the 5 milligrams of oxycodone and 325 of acetaminophen. And occasionally, whenever my dad or somebody would get the 10 milligrams, usually I would just take one of those. But yeah.
Okay. Do you think your addiction ever impacted your ability to safely practice as a technician?
It didn't. Like I said, I never took anything from the place of work. I always kind of knew that line in my head to not cross it. As weird as that sounds, but yeah, it never really, especially, because it was, especially being always, there was always someone with you in the room, and it was, not a smart thing to do. And like you said earlier, working for CDCR, it was, kind of a silly thing, so yeah, no.
Yeah, one of the things that I think I've seen in this practice is that sometimes people have a hard time getting a hold of actual prescription drugs, and so they'll switch over to something illicit like heroin. Did you ever switch over and start using heroin or any other illicit?
It never got to that point, no, thankfully.
Now you stole the drugs in 2014, but your license was revoked in 2016, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And what year did you enter the substance abuse treatment program at AEGIS?
That was in 2017.
Okay. So the letter that you submitted from AEGIS states that you were admitted into the program November 13th, 2019. So was it?
I can answer that. Yeah, I can answer. I'm so sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off. I switched over clinics to, initially I was in Stockton when I first entered the program. It was Aegis, and it's called Aegis in Stockton. And then when I moved to Lodi, that's when I moved to the 2019. That's when I switched over clinics.
Okay, so you went to essentially a different kind of clinic from 2017 to 2019, and then switched over to this clinic in 2019?
Yeah, it's the same clinic, just different location.
Okay. Do you have any documentation to support the statement that you had entered treatment in 2017?
Not with me, but I could easily get it for you guys.
Now, you had used opiates from roughly 2012 to 2017. What was the trigger that finally made you enter treatment?
Just wanting to get out of that. Finally, just wanting to better myself. I seen, just kind of being in that same routine, being, a loser in my eyes, and I just finally kind of wanted to get out of that and, get married and have a family, which I, thankfully, have achieved. And I'm so sorry. And yeah, I would say I'm successful in that. So pretty much just kind of wanting to get out of that hole and better myself.
Okay, so there wasn't some like rock bottom trigger that led you to enter into treatment?
No, it was just, well, in a sense, I guess rock bottom, like of not wanting to live the same lifestyle, kind of just be in that same cycle.
Okay, and was the program an inpatient program or outpatient?
Outpatient.
Okay, and what is your date of sobriety?
It would be March. Man, I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on the date, but I do know it was March 2017. I want to say the 12th, March 12th. And again, I could get you guys the exact date from the clinic. If
Is
need
that
be.
the date you joined the
Yes.
clinic?
Yes.
Okay, no relapses since joining the program?
No.
And are you sober from alcohol as well?
Yes, I don't drink alcohol.
Okay, and the program, you testify that you do drug testing?
Yes.
That's monthly?
Monthly, correct.
Is it random?
Yes.
Okay, and you have counseling?
Yes, I have weekly counseling.
Is that one-to-one or group counseling?
One-on-one.
Okay. Do you do AA or NA or support groups?
No, I haven't. I find that going to church kind of adds to my treatment, and so I kind of go off that.
Okay. Do you have a sponsor?
I do not.
Okay.
I guess my sponsor would be my counselor, in a way.
Okay, but you don't work any kind of like 12-step program?
No.
Okay. From your statement, it appears you were prescribed methadone as part of your substance abuse treatment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And are you still prescribed that?
Yes.
How long have you been taking it?
Since I began the program.
Okay. And how many times a week do you have to go to get the?
I just go once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Do you think it's made a difference in your treatment?
It has made a tremendous difference. I attribute my change in my life to not necessarily solely to that, obviously, but that was a big factor.
Okay. Do you know about how long to expect to be on methadone?
It won't be much longer. I just kind of wanted to be on it till I had my meeting with you guys, and just kind of wanted to show you guys that I was still in it. Maybe I would say a couple more months, if that.
Okay. If you get your technician license back,
yes,
you'll have access to opiates in the pharmacy setting. Are you concerned at all about maintaining your sobriety once you're actually faced with the thing that you were addicted to?
I am not concerned whatsoever. I feel that part of my life is in the past. And not to sound like a broken record, but like I said, my goal is to provide for my family and for my, my wife and my kids, and no drug can ever amount to what I feel for when I'm with my family.
How do you expect to maintain your sobriety going forward?
Just being with my wife, being with my kids, just keeping a clean mindset, keep staying away from relationships that I've had in the past, which I have completely cut off since then. Keep and going to church and just doing the best that I can.
When you're looking at your reference letters, you submitted a reference from Joel.
Yes.
Is that your brother?
He is my brother, yes.
Okay. And David is your father-in-law?
Yes.
And Annie is your wife?
Yes.
Okay. And then Andrew, does he have any relation to you?
Just an ex-coworker.
Okay. You didn't want to submit a letter from your current employer?
It never occurred to me, but I can if that would make a difference.
So why do you want to return to work as a pharmacy technician?
Monetary, financial. I kind of want my wife to work less and stay, because my kids are they're 11 months apart and they're under 2 years old. So I would prefer my wife to stay home a lot more with them rather than having to work more. So that, and I've always enjoyed my pharmacy work, and it's just always something that I felt like, making a change, as small as it is, I did really always enjoy what I did.
if the board reinstates your license, they could put you on probation for a period of time. Do you understand that?
Yes, of course.
Okay. One of the common terms of probation in cases involving substance abuse is to require a licensee to undergo random drug testing at their expense. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. And it won't be a financial obstacle for you to pay for drug testing?
No, not at all.
Okay. If you get your license back, what sort of pharmacy setting would you like to work in?
So my main experience is before I worked in for the state for CDCR, I worked private pharmacy. So anything that won't really have to deal with the patients and no, I guess that's a wrong way to say it. Probably hospital and private, like in private, I mean like from my experience, just in the I'm totally blanking here, I'm so sorry. Providing for nursing homes and so just anything like that, hospital and private pharmacy. To answer your question, I'm sorry.
Would you prefer not to have the patient interaction?
It's just something I've worked with customer service long enough. I wouldn't mind it, but if I don't have to, I would probably choose not to.
I don't have any further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Troma. Now I'll turn it over to the board members. Dr. Crowley, any questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have any further questions.
Mr. Chandler?
No questions.
Dr. Barker?
No questions.
Ms. Cameron Banks?
Thank you. No questions.
Mr. Jha?
No questions?
Dr. Serpa?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of questions. Mr. Madrigal, I was looking at your past employment and I saw there was a period of time that you worked at Save Mart, but that was not in the pharmacy. Is that correct?
No. That was as a in the meat department.
In the meat department. Did you ever like talk to people in the pharmacy or inquire about being a clerk or a non-licensed position there? Was there any interest in that?
At the time, they actually had closed the pharmacy at the Save Mart I was in. So it was before that, it was a really small pharmacy. Like I think they only employed about two pharmacists and like 2 techs. So I don't even think they had a clerk at the time.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't consider like maybe moving to a different store, or because I saw that you don't work there anymore. You were there for about a year.
Yes. No, it didn't consider moving to another store. I just kind of moved on to my next job.
Mm-hmm. And where do you currently work?
I work for Donergy Sales, which is essentially Anheuser-Busch. Yeah.
And then just a quick question about your methadone, your current treatment with methadone. I guess you would call it your counselor, or I'm sorry, I forgot the term that you use for the person at Aegis. Did they explain to you how your drug screening works with the ongoing treatment of methadone?
Yes, I believe they did, yeah.
Can you explain it to me, that how they could do drug screening when you're on methadone? How does that work?
I'm sorry, I don't really understand.
Well, you would come up positive for opioids if you're on methadone. So how does the drug screening work? How do they know that you're clean, I guess?
I think it comes up as its own, when they do the drug testing, it comes up, to my knowledge, they have different classifications for each drug that comes up tested. And I think, yeah, methadone is its own separate
okay.
classification. Yeah, I wish I could tell you. I could get the information, more in-depth information if you'd like, but yeah.
That's fine. I just was wondering if they had explained it to you, but that makes sense. And if you don't mind, if it's not too confidential, what's your current dose of methadone?
Right now I'm at 104.
104 milligrams?
104.
104 milligrams a day?
Yes.
And you expect to be off in a couple of months?
Yeah, tapering.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, thank you. Dr. Tebow, any questions?
Yes, just one question. Mr. Madrigal, thank you so much for meeting with us today. I was just wondering, what have you learned about yourself from counseling that, like what things contributed to your addiction that you're now aware of and able to work on?
Well, firstly, it was being around certain environments, being with certain people that would always trigger that. And just kind of knowing to abstain from that, knowing to stay away from those people, cutting off ties with those people. And, you know, I've learned that just keeping myself busy, or if whenever that those urges did come up, just to kind of steer clear of it, or just keeping myself busy in other ways was the key. And yeah, just kind of maturing as a person, because all this did happen in my early 20s. Being 30 now with a family, I know that is just part of my past and something I never want to go back to again.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course, thank you.
All right, thank you. And Dr. O, any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Madrigal, anything else you'd like to say on your own behalf?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Ahmed, any follow-up?
Nothing from me, Your Honor.
Mr. Madrigal, do you have any additional evidence to offer, additional witnesses, anything like that?
No, Your Honor.
All right. As I said, you do have the right to make closing argument. If you'd like to make any closing remarks, you may do that now.
I'd just like to thank you guys for hearing me. And I trust you guys will make whatever decision is best. I hope it beneficial to me. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you guys for being so awesome.
All right, thank you, Mr. Madrigal. Ms. Trotta, any closing remarks?
No, Your Honor, the people submit.
All right, Mr. Madrigal, is the matter submitted?
Yes.
All right, then the matter is submitted. The case is closed and will be off the record for this matter. All right, that concludes the 4 petition hearings. And Dr. O, I'll turn it back over to you to run the meeting as you see fit.
Thank you, Your Honor. As included on the agenda, we'll be considering several petitions today. The board will now move into closed session for the stated purposes indicated on the agenda. As the board transitions to closed session, I'd like to announce that due to technological limitations, adjournment for the day will not be broadcast. Adjournment for the day will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed. Members of the public, thank you for joining the meeting today.